Internet, welcome back to the Fast Travel Lounge. You're listening to episode 17. My name is Patrick. I am joined by... Whoa, had to catch myself there. I was about to say Saif and Steve, but no, it is Saif and Josh this week. Say hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Unfortunately, Steve, hold up, he sent us a note. I am at Clown College, be back next week. Well, hopefully, Clown College goes well. Looking forward to hearing all about his diploma. I hope it goes well. But it means that we got Josh back. Josh survived the underwater level from 2 weeks ago and enjoyed it so much he went back to 100% it last week. Josh, how you been?
Yeah, good. I'm willing to listen to the other episodes to understand that reference, I think.
You've had such a long time to catch up on all the content we've put out. What have you been doing?
I've been studying and watching Naruto and literally about nothing else.
So, when you went back to 100% the water level last week, was there a platinum trophy involved? Or was it just like a stats thing for you?
Well, if it's a water level, it's probably a Nintendo game and they don't have achievements, so let's go with just ego.
Just because you wanted to. Interesting. Well, gotta save us before we go too much deeper into that never-ending spiral of hell. This week, I think pretty much all of us have been playing a somewhat new release game, so that'll be interesting. We'll try not to fall into the trap of other episodes where we spend an entire extra hour because a game just came out, because we've all been playing different new releases, which I think is a change.
Yeah, so instead of an hour on one game, it'll be an hour on multiple games.
That's the hope. We will have to see. But before all of that, Saif, do you have a phone update from Mr. Samsung himself?
I do. So, last week I mentioned that I got a call, a text saying, hey, we don't have any parts to repair your phone, so we're just going to send you a replacement. Is that cool? It'll take 2 to 3 weeks. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It came in the mail this Monday, so I've had my replacement phone for about a week now, and it's doing pretty well.
Was it a new phone?
Yeah, it's a new flip.
Okay, so it wasn't refurbished.
Yeah,
Nice.
No, it wasn't refurbished. It was just from the box, brand new.
It'd be funny if they sent you Steven's broken one.
That would be what would that be, like extended Samsung-matic universe theory right there.
Yeah, unfortunately he had a older model than what I had, so they just sent me a pink phone as punishment.
See, that would make it even funnier if they just sent you like an older model of
Yeah.
that you sent in.
And it even has the note saying, "This is Steve's old phone. Take good care of it."
Still got his background and everything.
It's still got a crack on the screen. They never actually fixed it.
You can see the dates that he's booked in Clown College this week because it's chopped up there on the calendar.
You can see smudges on the screen where he's touched the screen after eating Krispy Kreme. Did you actually get Krispy Kreme? Natural follow-up to any tech story we have on Fast Travel Lounge.
Would it make you happy if I said yes?
Yeah, just lie to me. Just this once.
Yeah.
Talk me through it.
Okay, so after getting the phone, I decided this is a very good opportunity to go get Krispy Kreme, so I have a story for the podcast, because all our good stories end with a trip to Krispy Kreme.
Especially when they start with getting a new phone in the mail with which you didn't have to leave your house at all to get. So now you know that going to get the Krispy Kreme is even more worthwhile because you made that choice.
I braved the $2 a litre petrol prices just for this.
Oh god, $2 a litre. Wow, that's cheap. Where'd you get that from?
Just around the corner. It was $2.10 the other day. Now it's $2. It's like, oh, it's going down.
Oh man, I'd pay like $2.40. Please no.
Damn, I would not fill up my petrol for that price.
I had to. It was like literally empty, and I had to get to work.
I would have just busted it.
I debated, and I was like, it would cost me less to pay for the fuel than it would be to take like an unpaid day off. So I better get the fuel.
Fair enough. So this Krispy Kreme.
I head to the local Krispy Creamery and I order that beautiful $9.95 for 2 donuts and 1 milkshake.
What flavor milkshake?
I am over Steve's crimes against chalky milk, and I got a chocolate milkshake.
Oh, nice.
And
nice.
what about the Krispy Kremes? Were they original glazed?
Both of them were original glazed. Yes.
Yes, superior choice.
Yeah, it's the best choice there.
Maybe the custard filled ones, but they're not that good, honestly, from Krispy Kreme.
They're fine.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I think the tiers are original glazed, and then I don't think it's controversial, but at least in New Zealand where I get my Krispy Kreme, there's a I just call it like a strawberry iced one. Like it's like glazed, but like the icing on top is just strawberry flavored, and that is surprisingly good, but not filled or anything, just iced.
Yeah, that and the chocolate one are pretty good.
Yeah.
Man, Krispy Kreme has these really the cookie and cream donut. It's like it's filled with icing for cookie and cream, and it's got like crushed up Oreo on the top. That's really good, but super sweet. I can't eat a whole one on one go. I have to like cut it in half.
I feel like to have a phone story and finish it with I got a cookies and cream donut from Krispy Kreme. That actually would have had to have been I got Steve's phone in the mail.
It bothers me that like cookies and cream is like CC and Krispy Kreme is KK, and it should be CC, and like the alliteration would have been so good, but it's not actually accurate.
What, Krispy Kreme cookies and cream?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like KKCC, not CCCC.
Chocolate chick shake for Chine dollars and Chinese 5 cents.
You done there?
So an actual truthful Krispy Kreme fun fact though for the podcast is I found out they actually do sponsorships.
Yo,
we could apply for a Krispy Kreme sponsorship, but it'd take 4 to 6 weeks for our request to be reviewed.
Yeah, who cares? Do it just for the meme.
how many donuts we gotta eat before we get in on that short list?
I don't know, but for the bit, I'd be willing to put us down for it, but I also feel like in 4 to 6 weeks' time, Josh, do you just want to break your phone so we still have Krispy Kreme stories to talk about?
It's funny you say that because mine started, now when I'm folding it, opening and closing it, it started making cracking noises.
Yeah, that's what happened to me right before it started getting that line down the middle.
And the screen protector is starting to come off on the middle, which for anyone that doesn't have a fold, doesn't know, you're not allowed to take it off because it like actually protects the phone when you're folding it and stuff.
Well, it forms part of the hinge mechanism.
I think it does, yeah.
Because that's what all the journalists did, was they got their review model and went, oh, there's a screen protector on it, and then took it off, and then the phone broke.
So like, yeah, I can't take it off, and it's like starting to like bubble up everywhere down the middle. So I'm not sure if the cracks are because that's happening, or if the cracks are happening and causing that.
Oh, I see.
But at the moment the screen is normal, so give me a week.
Sounds like you have a classic Samsung Tech Krispy Kreme situation of which one came first.
Yeah.
We will have to wait and see.
Which means we have weeks worth of content to prove our case to Krispy Kreme for that sponsorship.
Oh, I thought you were going to say throttle well past the point of it being funny or relevant to anyone listening, but I'll take your version.
Border, to be honest.
Anyway, though, I guess we'll go into Round the Lounge. Josh, you're the special guest star of being completely absent for the last 2 episodes. What have you been up to this week / 3 weeks?
So while I've been like honestly just kind of working almost nonstop, I just needed some downtime instead of just laying in bed staring at the roof. So I have been watching Naruto and playing Pokemon Black, so Gen 5, because I don't know what year it is. Both of which actually
Throwbacks to the early 2010s.
Yeah, I think Naruto was like 2009. When did Pokemon Black release? Was that 2011?
2011, I think. Yeah, over here anyway, because it came out around the same time the 3DS did, and that's when I got back into Pokemon. I bought a 3DS and then got Pokemon White.
Yeah, no, it definitely came out on the DS though.
Yeah, it was a DS game, but the releases were right next to each other.
Yeah, which is really weird, but yeah, I guess that's pretty normal for Pokemon to just randomly do things like that. Yeah, so funny enough, like both of these things, things that Steven's complained about that I haven't done, so I haven't seen Naruto, even though I watch a lot of anime, and I haven't played Gen 5 to completion because I just hated it. And now, the one time I'm here talking about the stuff that he likes, he's not even here. And then I've also, since Kirby came out yesterday, I've been playing a little bit of Kirby.
We will look forward to hearing your first impressions with that. Saif, what about you?
So I played and finished and platinumed Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. And because I took the train to work for the first time yesterday, I also started up Gen 5 just so I could argue against Josh and his bad take he's going to bring up.
Yeah. All right, that's fair.
I needed it fresh in my mind just so I could go, no, you're wrong, it's great.
And I will break the host rule and talk about a game I've been playing, probably more in depth than other little tidbits that I've been feeding over the last few episodes, in that, to round out the trifecta of new releases, I have been playing Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, pretty much non-stop since it released, at least as of recording yesterday. So that will be fun to get into as well. I guess. What about you, Steve?
Just chasing that pussy. Leave it in so that he can hear that edit.
Yeah. Anyway,
just for the bit, I'll censor him out.
So going, Steve, bleep. We refer to him like, hey, what's your thoughts on Gen 5, Steve? Bleep.
Oh, good. Well, I guess, Josh, you've got picked. Do you want to talk Gen 5 and have Saif yell at you, or do you want to delay that and talk about Kirby first?
I'll talk about Kirby first.
Oh yeah,
so
go on.
Kirby, obviously you guys were discussing it, and I haven't listened back to find out your, I guess impressions on the demo.
Saif, you'll have to bleep that too. Josh, what you meant to say was that you listened and thoroughly enjoyed our content on the Kirby demo, but continue.
Sure. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy looking forward to listening to it.
Nice.
So it came out yesterday, as of time of recording. So I've only really played about an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's really fun. Like, it's not the Kirby game I thought it was going to be from the initial announcement trailers, and I think maybe you guys probably would have discussed that a little bit in the last episode. But it's very level based. So you jump into a level almost like Mario 3D World. So you jump into a level, there's usually a kind of like gimmick around that level, and you just progress your way through, and there's a bunch of little side tasks that you can do to rescue the little Waddle Dees and increase your score and build the town faster and whatnot, or you can just sort of progress through. And it's a pretty easy game, but it's very fun, it's very cute, and I just love Kirby games. I've played them since I was a kid, so I'm loving it so far.
So that's interesting. Probably won't spend too much longer on it because you haven't played it for that long, but I am curious to get your thoughts on what you thought the game was going to be and what you got. Well, obviously what you got instead was a 3D world type thing, but what did you think it was going to be?
So my initial impression from the announcement trailer was that it was going to be not a level based world, but rather just an open exploration kind of world, and you could still have that segmented like a Zelda kind of way or whatever, or Metroidvania, but it's not like that. It's actually separate levels. So I was really surprised that when they jumped into the game, and even the demo, they basically jumped in and was like, hey, here's this level, go complete it, and then here's this level, go complete it, and it really didn't look like that in the trailers. So I was surprised about that.
I'm kind of surprised that out of all of us, I was the only one that looked at that and went, oh wow, they're doing Kirby but Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah, no, I just didn't expect it at all. They said, like, obviously that I think there was a whole bunch of media around why they hadn't done a Kirby 3D game before, and they were saying that he doesn't translate well into 3D, which, to be honest, you can see a little bit in the game.
Well, I saw one person say that he was considered too round for 3D games as well.
Yeah, I saw that too. He's like, you're too round, and sad face for Kirby. But yeah, like I can kind of see that in this game, but they've done a really good job. And so when I saw stuff like that being talked about, I thought that they meant into like a 3D rotate the camera open world kind of thing, and that's not really what you have. It's still a very much platformer. Your camera faces this way for this part of the map kind of thing. You can't really adjust it. So
it's kind of, but not really isometric.
Yeah. But like they've done a really good job. It's really fun. The boss battles are interesting, which the Kirby games, they've always had boss battles, but these are a bit more. I guess honestly they're kind of easier. Like the whole game itself is really easy because Kirby doesn't do much. He either holds one ability to use holds one button, to shoot an ability or to suck in things and shoot it out. He has like a crouch and he has a jump, and that's about it. You can move sideways, and there's no, like, it's not like there is actually a dodge roll, which I found out, which is really strange. He kind of like flips, but like a normal user playing Kirby wouldn't do that. So it's not like you're not actually fighting a boss as much as you are kind of walking around them and finding the opportunity to attack. So it's just a very scenic puzzle game, I guess, basically. But that's all the Kirby game.
That's a great way of describing it.
In the demo, I was feeling that with the boss fight there because it was very easy. Like his attacks seemed to go over Kirby a lot, or there was so much wind up you could just jump out of the way, no problem. So a lot of it was just me walking up to the boss's feet and just spamming the attack button. And I was using ice for that, so all I had to do was just hold down the one button while I breathed
yep.
ice on him, and he couldn't do anything.
That was literally my experience today on that same boss, because I just beat the boss that was in the demo, and I was like, huh, this is kind of stupidly easy, which
Yeah.
I didn't mind, but because it's a kid's game.
I'm hoping further worlds increase the difficulty a little bit, because I know Kirby is like easy baby game for first platformer sort of thing, but there was a little bit of like a sliding difficulty as it gets further into the game, so I hope that this does that.
Yeah, like the old school Kirby games were, here's a boss, figure out its mechanic, and then you win. For the most part, this was
Yeah, but even in the levels themselves, they sometimes put enemies in like tricky positions or whatever, and you had to work around them a little bit. So
Yeah,
I kind of want to see that in the game itself, but like just from what was in the demo, I felt like the beginning was even lower than usual Kirby beginnings.
it was, and I think that's to help people adjust with the 3D change. So I'm also hoping it's going to get harder, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'll give you guys a bit more updates. One thing I did want to mention though is that the demo itself isn't actually the first 3 levels. They're out of order.
Oh yeah, I figured they were out of order, but that first one still the first one, or was that also out of order?
The first one was the first one.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I think the second one that you did was like the 3rd level, and then the 5th level was the 3rd level in the demo.
Yeah, they were all from the first world, but like out
Have
of
fun
order.
following along at home.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I made the comparison to 3D World because one, it's obviously just a 3D Mario based game that's very similar to this, though you can rotate the camera, but it's also got the same style hub world where you sort of like run between the levels and you can select them and it shows you what you've unlocked in them and your high score and whatnot. And then you need a certain amount of the Waddle Dees rescued so that you can do the boss stage of that level, similar to the stars that 3D World had. So they've obviously seen that works for Mario and tried to adapt Kirby into that, which I'm not a massive fan of, but I can see like it works, right? I don't want them being like, oh, Kirby's like effectively a Mario spin-off. I want it to be its own game still. So we'll see how that goes.
Is that, I'll try not to invite too much more discussion, but is that just like gut reaction because you'd rather it just be a linear set of levels, or that it be whatever you do doesn't impact whether or not you take the boss out at the end?
I think with the hub world scenario they've got, where you've got the towns and you need to unlock Waddle Dees to go do things, having it not linear is fine. But it just felt like, almost like a clone of what 3D World was. It's like,
oh, I see.
It doesn't feel like they've taken any originality to it. They've just gone, hey, here's some things that existed and worked in 3D World. Let's just apply that to Kirby's 3D World game.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
sweet.
Okay, like that's, maybe it'll change, and as we level up the hub world, maybe new things will unlock. But yeah, that was my first impression.
So one last point before we end on Kirby. Have you guys seen what they've actually done with the perspective in this game, like with your attacks and how they correlate to enemy placement on screen? Because it's actually really neat how they've done this.
I haven't, no.
Okay.
No, neither.
I'm going to send this through to you guys. It's a very quick, small video, but basically, as long as the camera looks like it's attacking an enemy, that attack will count as hitting the enemy.
Interesting. Oh, I see. Huh.
Yeah,
That's
Seems
interesting.
like a good way to do it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting way to do it, and also just it's something that helps with like making this game work in a 3D environment as well.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I didn't know. I'm gonna abuse that.
Kirby now hit scan confirmed.
Yeah.
So to explain to people what's going on in this video, they show like a side-on view of Kirby throwing a boomerang and it hits an enemy. And then they freeze frame it and they rotate the camera upwards to show that the enemy was actually like a few in like
Kirby.
a Z-plane behind where the boomerang is. But because the camera looks like it should hit, then it does confirm that the hit collided.
Yeah, that's cool. One other thing I wanted to mention, I guess, before we wrap up, / while we wrap up, is that something I didn't expect in Kirby for the 3D world thing is that as you sort of explore the world, you can find like you naturally unlock and you can find like basically time trial levels. So it'll dump you in and it'll say like, hey, here's the Mouthful mode for Cone or whatever, and you have to sort of use that ability to get through that level as quick as you can and to unlock a star. And those things will then go back to your hub town and you can upgrade those abilities further. And like that'll count for like the ice ones and the boomerang ones and stuff. Some of them are actually kind of hard. It's good. I like it. So I'm glad they put those in there. That's really cool.
Yeah, okay, so at least they put some challenge somewhere in the game, which is good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't taken me longer than 3 tries to beat anyone yet, but I'm still on World 1. So, because they did like the same thing for this game that they did for 3D World, where you clear everything in the world, go to the boss stage, and then it'll unlock the second world. So then it like the fog clears and you can go there now. So yeah,
I think that's the Star Allies approach for level progression in Kirby games. Could be wrong, but I remember Star Allies doing something similar.
Possibly. I actually didn't play Star Allies.
It was fun. It was literally like a Switch version of I don't know, a GBA Kirby title. Just because I know that you were such a big fan of how we talked about the Kirby demo last episode. Shout out to episode 16. Go back and listen to it. You've brought up 2 of the issues that I had with the demo, being that you can't rotate the camera and that I thought it was more of an open world type thing. I'm curious as to what you think of the sprint speed in 10 seconds or less. Kirby running around, does it feel fast? Does it feel slow? Thoughts?
So yes and no. It feels fine. It feels
Okay,
so
thanks.
it feels fast, right? But compared to other enemies, it feels quite slow. But in saying that, you have a crouch dash ability that makes you quite fast. And if you're using like the ice ability, then you do move quite fast because you're sliding. So it varies too much for me to say like it's good or it's bad. It's just the way it is while you have the abilities that you have.
Yeah,
Cool.
because we were of the opinion that it felt like too much of a leisurely stroll sort of pace.
Yeah.
It is a little bit slow, but like if you combine it, yeah, with like the dashes and like the dodge roll kind of thing that Kirby has, it's fine.
Sweet. So maybe it's just a mechanic that I wasn't as familiar with in the demo. Out of 10, you've only played it for 90 minutes or what have you, 3 hours, what have you, but impressions out of 10?
At this point, like a 7.5.
Sweet. We'll get more info from you next week, I assume, probably.
Yeah.
As long as
I'll
you
probably
haven't found
finish
another
by then.
underwater level to get lost in. Shall we switch it up to both of you discussing the Gen 5 you've been playing? First of all, what started it? I guess that's a question to you, Josh, because you're the one that started this.
I needed something to play while I was basically waiting to fall asleep or while I was on a train or whatever. Which I guess is basically why Seth's playing it as well. And I've replayed all the Pokemon games to death, basically, excluding Gen 5, because I've played Pokemon Black and I've beaten the game, but not done any of the post game, and I never played number 2 because I kind of hated the first one. So now that I've actually revisited, like Pokemon X and Y went from my least favorite title after Black and White to one of my favorites after I've replayed them all recently. I thought I'd give this another go, and yeah, I mean it's okay so far. But yeah, I guess we can discuss that a bit more in a sec. But Seth, why did you start? Just the train, right?
Yeah, so I've got to start catching the train regularly in like a week and a half. So I was like, you know what? I haven't played Pokemon Sword and Shield, so I'll probably start playing that on the train ride. And then Josh said, oh, hey, I'm playing Gen 5 and I've got bad opinions on Gen 5. So I'm like, you know what? For the podcast, I need to play it so I can at least so it's at least fresh in my mind and I can actually discuss this properly. Like, not
So
just
that you can
come in
tell
and
me
like
I'm
beat
wrong with
him,
evidence.
oh no, Gen 5's great, Gen 5's great, I love it, but like actually have like a refreshed memory of like everything in that game.
Fair enough. My question to you, Seth, then, is that do you find it easier to catch the train when it's status affected, or do you just get it to low health and then great ball it?
God damn it.
You see, I just sprint because then the encounter rate is more often.
Ah, yeah. I knew using that max repel in a train station was a bad idea.
If I like get to the train station one day and I see you running up and down the platform because we catch the train from the same platform, I'm gonna laugh so hard.
and a train just appears.
I'm actually catching the train from the one earlier now. And at an earlier time. I gotta start catching the train at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, I start work at 7 these days, so it's too early for me. Too late for me, rather.
So more genuine question to you, Seth, because I believe you and Steve both have Gen 5 as one of your favorite gens. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so weirdly, Gen 5 is the one gen that I skipped just because I never had, I had a DS and played through Pearl, I think, like really sort of around when it launched, and then just sort of stopped with the DS for ages, and then picked up a 3DS and Pokemon Y, so I've sort of skipped Gen 5 as well. But I'm curious as to know what your highlight of Gen 5 would be, and whether that's something that Josh can look forward to or has already experienced it and disagrees.
Oh, no spoilers, though, because I don't remember the story at all. I'm trying to go through it.
So
Spoiler alert for the 12-year-old game.
I'll
yeah,
give
I mean, I'm actively playing it.
I'll give a little bit of like context as well for how my history went, because I played the hell out of Gen 1 and Gen 2 as a kid. And I had a GBA, but I didn't have Gen 3 because the one time I went to go get it. I think I've told this on podcast before, actually, but just re-summarize it. I went to go get Gen 3 because someone I knew had Sapphire and I really wanted to play it, but they didn't have it. So I got Legacy of Goku instead. And then
Yeah,
Yes, you have told that.
yeah. So I skipped the DS, and so I didn't play Gen 4 either. And the 3DS was coming, and Pokemon White and Black was coming out around the same time because that's when the localization was hitting. I was like, you know what? I want to get a 3DS and I want to play Pokemon again. So I just got them both at the same time. And for Gen 5 specifically, I really enjoyed the story in the game. I thought Pokemon having like trying to do an in-depth story was pretty fun and great. The music and the Unova region I just really like. I enjoyed like okay, so skipping Gen 3 and 4 probably like diminishes this opinion a little bit, but I really liked that when you're doing Gen 5 part 1 for the main story quest, they force you to use just the Unova region's Pokemon, and they made 150 Pokemon that for that region specifically. I know there's a lot of like your regular repeated sort of archetypes, like you got instead of Rattata you've got Pat Rat, instead of Pidgey you've got P-Dove, and so on and so forth. So you've got like all of those sort of like same tropes but made fresh. But I think just doing that in general helps with like my opinion of like not falling into a trap of getting all the Pokemon that I already know I love and like making new favorites.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think Gen 3 did something similar, but I don't think that opinion is diminished as much as you think, because it's more impressive if a Pokemon game that comes out later does that, because that means that it's willfully ignoring more of the current roster to do so. So it's in some ways more impressive that they've done that in Gen 5.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, like, for me personally, it might come off as like a little weird. I have that opinion because I skipped 2 generations, so
Yeah,
I
fair enough.
didn't have as much of a burnout as most people would have at that point.
So Josh, what are your thoughts on the story so far, having played every gen?
I don't like the story in these games. I really
that
don't.
laugh tells me that it's going to be either a very one-liner opinion or a let me get my paper and pen and take some notes.
No, it's okay. So I can't talk too much because most of the story in a Pokemon game always happens towards the middle to like sort of 3/4 to end half of the game. So not much has happened so far. So far for me, after just being the 4th gym, the story so far has been, we're Team Plasma, we're going to steal your Pokemon, and taking me on a Ferris wheel and going, actually, I'm the bad guy. All right, now let's sit here awkwardly until we get back down to the ground. And then Charon running up going, I'm still here, like after like every single route. And then when it's not him, it's Bianca. And all they want to do is fight me with their 3 weak Pokemon. And I'm like, please stop. You're like Hal, but worse.
I like Sharon and Bianca because like, so you're still in the mid game, so it's not going to hit just yet. But they have story arcs, like, so they're not just Hal and Hop. Well, Hop kind of has an arc, but I've seen a lot of people say that his arc sucks. But Sharon, his arc is kind of air. But I like Bianca as a character a lot. I like how her journey plays out and the conclusions she reaches. And Sharon's big payoff is in the sequel, I feel.
Okay, yeah, so I'll have to obviously, like I said, like I can't say anything too bad about the story yet because I haven't finished it. But from what I remember when I was a kid playing this, I enjoyed the game until the last part of the actual game where you go catch the box legendary, and then I was like, this sucks, and then I dropped it entirely. So we'll have to see if I do that again. I don't remember why I did that. I just remember absolutely hating it and then not playing the sequel that came out. So, yeah, we'll have to see. That's part of the reason why I'm replaying it.
Yeah, I think more interestingly will be whether you enjoy the experience more this time that you then get driven to do part 2.
Well, my plan is to play part 2 regardless of whether or not I enjoy this, just so I can say I've beaten it. Because I've done every other Pokemon game, so I kind of need to do this one at some point.
Well, if if it helps any, it's generally considered that part 2 is a massive improvement.
Yeah, that's where I was sort of leading that too.
I heard that it's the same game, but you go in reverse. Like, I heard you just go from the top of the map to the bottom instead, or like you just go through the reverse town, like reverse counter.
Just the amount of things that are in the game and like the changes they made make it a massive improvement.
There's still
and the
HMs.
post game is one of the best post games they've ever done.
I see. The other problem I'm having with the game at the moment is that almost every second person I talk to is like, "Hey, look at these great wireless features," and I can't use them because they're dead. And I'm playing this like 12 years later.
Yeah, that's not a criticism of the game though.
No,
that's a criticism
it's
of
Nintendo.
Of you. Well, yes,
No,
but
it's
it's
me
also a
playing it 12
criticism
years later.
of the current context within which you're playing it.
But the reason I bring that up is that the touchscreen, because I'm playing on my 3DS, the touchscreen is like usually in most other Pokemon games quite useful, but in this you're forced into the online mode and you can't just have it be the menu or a map or anything actually useful. It's just an online thing saying like, hey, connect here to talk with people and connect to the dream world or whatever. And I just have it turned off because like I can't connect. It just sits there saying connect and I'm like, I can't. So that entire bottom screen is useless outside of battle. And then when I press X, then it opens the menu that I actually want on the touchscreen. So it's a bit weird.
Fair enough. Team check.
Yeah.
What are you running in your team right now?
Oh, hang on, I'll tell you. I've got. Yeah, let me turn the volume down. I have got.
Before we get copyright struck by Nintendo.
So for me, because I'm still at the first gym, my my options are limited. I'm using a Snivy, a Patrat, a Lillipup,
and the shiny level 100 Rayquaza I found.
Yeah. Caught it in
that
one
totally
Pokeball.
wasn't gen.
Yeah.
I just got a Munna on my team and the Panpour that they give you for free. Because I started with Snivy, they give you Panpour.
So I got Palpitoad, Zebstrika, Tranquil, Cottony, Pignite, and Lipid. Although Lipid's going to be replaced because as much as I like the design of the Pokemon, it's kind of shit.
Oh yeah, I also got a Purloin on my team because you get that early as well.
Yeah, so I'm still using. Ironically, Cottony is my best Pokemon by far because they give you an Eviolite really early, and it just like between Leech Seed and Giga Drain, this thing does not die. I fought so many fire types with this Cottony, and it just wins. It soloed most of the rival encounters I've encountered so far, and it's the highest level on my team.
Oh, I also want to add for things that I'd really like for Gen 5 is just the little minor touches they did in presentation. So Gen 5 is the first time, not the first time, but a big focus is that all the sprites are animated now in battle, and they look really great. When you get
some of them do.
Yes. From what I've seen, most of them are pretty great so far. If I see any bad ones, I will point them out next time.
Blitzels is really good. I like Blitzels.
Yeah. Patrats is pretty nice. When you get to critical health, it changes the music instead of just having the beep. And
I was going to ask.
Rave.
The critical health music is a bop. I love it so much. It's a shame they got rid of it after Gen 5 as well, because now I think current gens, it beeps a couple of times when you hit it, and then it just continues a normal battle track.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not like the dun it, and then the drums kick in like.
Also, for gym leaders, when you get them down to their last Pokemon, it starts playing the main Pokemon theme, and I think that's fantastic.
It's so good.
Ooh, that's cool.
No, that's really cool.
Final question before we wrap this up then. Critical battle health of Gen 5 versus Dynamax party theme in Sword and Shield.
Oh,
the Dynamax theme absolutely pops off. I have to vote for that.
It's pretty close. I think I've got to give it to the Gen 8 one because of the audience chanting though.
Yeah, no, that's done really well.
I think that touch puts it above it.
I think that just makes it so much more hype. Like there's really good scenes in that game, which obviously Seth wouldn't have experienced yet because he hasn't played them. But like that music makes the game actually feel almost alive in certain points. So I really like that.
Cool.
Do we want to hear my very quick dot points on what I like and what I don't like about the Gen 5 so far?
Sure. I mean, we're at 13 minutes, so we could either do this or you could get into it more once you've, I don't know, closer to finishing the game next week. Up to you.
Well, I want to bring up the stuff that I like and don't like very quickly. just
Sure.
so we can go back on it next week if we need to.
So that Seth can take notes and
Yeah.
beat the shit out of you between
In
now
ca-
and next week. Yeah, go
in case a good becomes a bad next week,
on. Yeah.
or a bad becomes a good.
I'll be very quick with these. So the things I don't like so far are the fact that there is such a small variety of Pokemon available, even up to the 4th gym. There's just not many at all. Anywhere. There's kind of like even the different routes just have the same Pokemon repeated. So I would have liked them not necessarily to add the old Pokemon, but just have more Pokemon available at the start of the game so that you can form a team that's a little bit different to every other time you do that area. I don't like the UI at all. I really don't like the UI. It just feels dated and ugly. It feels like if anyone ever played Digimon Dawn and Dusk, it feels like that kind of UI but done badly. Compared to like Pokemon Y and even Diamond and Pearl, like they were just much better. The things I do like is the music is absolutely incredible. The world is actually just full of people. You can walk into almost every house and people are talking about things, and that the world feels very built. Like there's a lot of stuff in there.
I want to add that combining those two together, the second town, Akumula Town, they have a really great town theme there. But if you go onto a small house on a balcony, you talk to two people inside there, and they start adding musical tracks because they start playing drums and pianos, and it adds to the background music in such a good way.
Oh, that's really cool. But yeah, there's just a lot of like, just not well written, but written NPCs in general that just you don't have a lot of people in a lot of games. In a lot of the Pokemon games, like you'll kind of walk through and there'll be 6 people that you can talk to, and that's about it. But these towns are just filled with a lot more people. The cities are bigger. They've got like I can't remember what the town's called, but like people running through the town that shout random things at you as you bump into them or walk past. And all of those touches are really cool. So I would like to see more of that in the newer Pokemon games. But yeah, that's my impression so far. So we can wrap this up.
Cool. Anything you want to add, Seth?
No, that's all fine and dandy. I kind of get where Josh is coming from with like the selection of Pokemon as you're going through the routes. I feel like the point is that they're trying to like ease you into slowly changing up the team as you're going along and like trying out a small handful of Pokemon at a time. But also like if you're doing repeat playthroughs, then yeah, I can see that being a bit of a slog of these are like because before you get to the first gym, your like selection is of like 5 Pokemon, and one of them is a rare encounter that I haven't run into yet because I haven't tried grinding it yet.
Yeah, like there's just not a lot of Pokemon, and like your choices are, hey, here's the monkey they've given you for the opposite type to your own, and then you don't get the bird until I think the second, like after you beat the first gym. So your choices are a rat, a cat, your starter, and a monkey.
And the Ordino.
And there's no variety, and the Ordino. Yeah, so
Man, this,
like you
this
don't
team
get
building
any other
experience
type.
sounds like my trip to the zoo.
Yeah. And even after that, it's like, oh, cool, now I can get a bird Pokemon. Or I can get, like, their bat equivalent of, like, Woobat. And, well, what else can I get? Oh, I can get one electric type. All right, cool, time for the next zone. There's just not a lot of choice. Like, if you're trying to have a variety of types on your team, you're kind of locked into using certain Pokemon for quite a while.
Right. I guess just for continuity's sake, out of 10, based on what you've played, what would you give it? I don't know if the score's going to mean anything given it's 12 years old, but how are you finding it now?
Yeah, it's not as bad as I remember, honestly. So maybe like a 6 or a 7. 6, yeah, I'll go a 6.
Sweet. Just before we wrap up, it's only because I suddenly got reminded of it like 2 minutes ago. But when I was down in Wellington last week, I went through a bunch of stuff in my old room at my parents' house, and in that I found not only my Omega Ruby game, which I've been searching for a couple of years, but I got a brace for this.
Pokemon Black.
No. Original, bought from EB Games in 2005, Prima strategy guide for Pokemon Emerald.
Oh
my god.
nice.
That's probably worth money these days, honestly.
The thing is, I really enjoyed reading into games as a kid. Like, I'd always read the instruction manual and stuff on the way home from game, like from wherever I bought them.
Yeah,
or
I did the
everything
same
else.
thing.
So I remember. So the reason I remember like exactly when it was that I bought this is because the same day I had to perform in the school play that night. So I thought, it's fine. I'm only on for like a scene or two. I'll just read it backstage when it's not me on stage. Which one, I think that partially destroyed my eyesight with how strained I had to be to read in what was almost pitch black. But 2, I read the hell out of that thing. Like, I think I've torn a couple pages just from the number of times that I've read it. But as far as Prima strategy guides go, it's my favorite.
I can't believe we're having like a Prima discussion.
Yeah,
Sort of
exactly.
ranking of all the guides they've released.
If I was to do my top 1 Prima strategy guide 2022, Pokemon Emerald. But it's just because I was minded of that. But yeah, that's what I was going to say. But thank you for that, Josh and Seth. Why don't we move into Stranger in Paradise, Seth?
Yeah, so like I said earlier in Round the Lounge, I played this to damn near completion already. I got the platinum trophy, but there's still a lot I can do in that. I can do repeat playthroughs of the game at higher and higher difficulties until I reach the maximum level. But let's just take this from the top. So,
Oh boy,
I want to re-establish what exactly this game is right now. This is
it all started.
No, so this is a prequel to Final Fantasy 1.
Yes.
It's telling the story of Garland, the
Oh.
main villain of Final Fantasy 1, and like how he came to the position he's in. And gameplay wise, this is following a lot of what Neo does, where it's level by level, you progress through a linear level, and it's difficult like a Souls, what you'd expect a Souls game would be. It's got those sort of mechanics like dodge, enemies do a lot of big hits, but it's more leaning towards an action game, so you got a lot more answers to things than what a normal Souls game would be, and it's more focused on like. So, I said this the other day off podcast, and it seems like controversial take to Josh, but this is more focused on combat that feels really, really good compared to like. So Souls games do feel good to play, but the actions in this feel like what you'd expect from like an action sort of game, and the fluidity you would get from those, whereas Souls is very weighty, and all your things you have to commit to.
I think your words to me
Is that
was
still
that...
controversial, Josh?
So yes, because the way he said it was, "This is fun, unlike a Souls game."
I didn't say it like that. I said this is a good feeling. This feels good compared to a Souls game.
Compared to something, and I was like, "No, this looks like it just looks like cringe the game."
And so
like
how did
I'm
that
sure
make
the
you
combat's
feel?
quite fun, but yeah.
I like a lot of things that people consider cringe, and I unironically like them. People who say they like these things ironically are cowards.
So, Patrick, the therapist the role that you're currently taking, how's that going for you?
Might I recommend a healthy dose?
Couples
It Takes
therapy.
Two.
Healthy does, yeah. Well, I actually need to finish that still, so we could.
Actually, I did. I forgot to bring that up and Round the Lounge, but I did finish that.
Oh, did you play it solo or?
I have thoughts. No, I played it when I was down in Wellington because mutual friend of ours has it on PlayStation, and so I just played it. When I was...
did I say you played it with?
Yeah.
Oh,
and so I was just basically
get them on for a guest.
couch surfing for a week, and so we finished it because we played through a bit of it. I got wildly off topic. Stranger Paradise. Sorry, I don't know that we're going to bring up It Takes Two this time, but stay tuned because we probably need to have a discussion about that at some point because that was Game of the Year last year, and I know Steve also had opinions on it. So
Yeah, I just need to play through it myself as well, so maybe we could hold that off till like we've all played it and like go into a deep dive.
Yeah, no, I have thoughts. Yeah, back to Stranger in Paradise though.
Yeah, so the last point is that this is actually an anniversary celebration game, which is why they went back to like, let's explore the origins of the first Final Fantasy villain, but at the same time, all the levels are based on other Final Fantasy games. So the first level of the game is the Chaos Shrine, which is Final Fantasy 1's Chaos Shrine, but then immediately the next level is you go to a pirate village, so they base it on the Final Fantasy 14 pirates level, which is one of the most dreaded dungeons in the game when you get it in Duty Finder.
And so this is the second one.
Yeah, and that's the second level of the game. It's immediately
nice.
Okay. Go to your level Final Fantasy 14 Duty Finder.
Wait, so it literally is Sastasha, or it's just based on Sastasha?
It's based on Sastasha. Like,
oh, that's so funny.
Visually, a lot of the elements and stuff are based on Sastasha, but like you'll also get things like, they make cute references throughout the levels. Like, there's a level based on Final Fantasy X's Mount Gargazet, and you go inside a cave in there, and they've got all these things on the walls that are like depicting people. and one of the side characters will say it looks like those rocks look like they're dreaming, which is a pretty neat throwback to like the dreams of the Faith in Final Fantasy X.
Hmm. And all you hear in the background is just ah 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 ah.
No, that's way earlier in the game on a beach, unfortunately. I would have appreciated if the music track put in some ha's like the Final Fantasy X soundtrack does. Or at least a superior version of that soundtrack.
This is, I was about to say, this is a bit of an off-topic thing, but that YouTube video of just like the entire soundtrack done but him laughing instead of the actual notes. Oh my god, that's killer.
That is fantastic. But yeah, on that music note, these aren't straight remixes of the music tracks from those levels, but
are they gay or bi remixes?
Boo!
Steven's not here. I have to fill his role.
But yeah,
congratulations! You now have to play It Takes Two by yourself with both controllers.
Oh,
he has to play the Divorce Edition.
The Divorce Edition. Honestly, still an improvement over playing with Steven.
Fair enough.
But yeah, instead of like just straight up taking the music from these levels and remixing them, they make new arrangements and hide the original themes in there somehow. So as there's one of the levels that's based on the Final Fantasy 13 Sunlit Waterscape. And as
that'd be so good.
Yeah, and as you're going through it, once you start like reaching deeper and deeper into the level, you start hearing some Final Fantasy 13 notes come through, and it's every time that happens in the level, it just feels so good. Like the Final Fantasy 7 music, it starts hitting through Final Fantasy 6 music. The one that I didn't hear right away was the Final Fantasy 15 base level does have Somnus in it, which is peak 10 out of 10. I love that they went with that. But the way they mixed it into the track was, as I was playing the game, I didn't initially hear it and thought it wasn't in the game. And someone had to point out to me, no, it's here, and they elongated the notes and kept the pauses longer. I was like,
wasn't that someone, Josh?
No, it wasn't.
No,
Josh.
it wasn't me, but I was watching you complain about it.
Yeah, and so I'm a big fan of how they did that because it actually sounds very good how they mix that in there. But yeah, I think it was really smart that they went with the way of mixing the tracks you do know into another layer of a brand new song.
Who did this soundtrack? Was it Nobe Yamasto as well?
No, I think it was some composers from Team Ninja and maybe the Final Fantasy 13 composer. I'd have to double check that later and get back to you, but yeah, the Final Fantasy 13 composer's been on a lot of Square Enix stuff lately. He also did a lot of tracks for Final Fantasy 7 Remake.
How does this game soundtrack compared to just in general other Final Fantasy games, like out of 10?
Okay, so against like other like numbered Final Fantasy games, it doesn't hold a candle, honestly. Because those are like so varied and like so nostalgic that they're on like a league of their own. But this is still a very good soundtrack that I enjoyed a lot, and I do want to get the OST now that it's available because that just came out recently as well.
I thought it was selling really badly in Japan for physical copies compared to like Tactics. I think Tactics sold like 600,000, and then this first spin-off sold like I think it was like 50,000 physical copies, and that's just physical. But
yeah,
not doing well.
That seems to be like just a way of like the downward trend of Japan physical sales at the moment, because it's still a really high seller in Japan at the moment. Like the PS4 version was a #1 seller for the week it came out, and the PS5 version was like #3, and they were still both in the top 5 the last week that just passed. So it's selling well. Like I just at least in terms of charts, but yeah, I think that's more to say about how like maybe they're moving more towards digital sales and it's harder to track those, or maybe just console sales are dwindling in Japan compared to how they were a couple of years ago.
It also obviously doesn't include Epic Store or any other digital medium, so I just thought it was an interesting number to read.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to bring up, but I just think it's more of like showing a trend of how Japan sales are going compared to like this is doing badly, because this seems to be doing fairly well as it is.
Okay, and how does this game compare to a good Souls-like game like Elden Ring?
depends how you want to look at it, because Elden Ring is a beast of a game, and I can putting critical thinking into view, I can see that Elden Ring is so much of a better game than this is, because there's just so many ways to play that, and the open world is designed so well and everything, and it's just a beast of a game. While this is more focused around like making a really good combat system and celebrating the franchise is coming from. And the levels aren't too impressive, honestly. There are a lot of hallways with encounters through them until you get to the boss at the end. But the way they design the combat encounters are very fun and very unique. And I think I will say that I think this does have a slight advantage over Elden Ring when it comes to like classes and builds, because in Elden Ring, if you'll like find a new weapon and you either need to respec for it, or you just can't use that weapon, so you're locked to like certain play styles. While this, because of the job system that it has in place, it lets you switch up how you play through the game, or how you handle encounters on the fly, basically. Like you can switch up how you want to do it every encounter and just see what works for you and what's fun.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, I've seen some people have like they struggle with a fight with one class that's maybe like too hand to handy or something, and the bosses can be handled that way, but if you're having a bit too much issue with it and like trying to figure out how to do it, you can switch to like a mage build and like just start pumping it with like whatever element it's weak to and seeing if that works out for you instead, and like you don't have to go through a whole respec system or a whole new game file for it. It's just switch your weapon, switch your job, and that's it. You've got a whole new playstyle to work with.
So when you played through, did you have a particular job that you enjoyed more than others? Or did you find yourself, because of that freedom with things like weapon selection, being able to just freely swap between them and not really hold on to a favorite?
The way I was playing was I was leveling up the jobs as I was going through, and like just sticking with something until it reached maximum cap and then go to something else. But I did have a clear favorite.
You took the grinder approach.
Yeah. And doing it that way, I almost got every job to maximum by the time I hit the end of most of the side missions. So, it's to get every job to level 30. It's not that bad, honestly. You just need you just play through the game and you'll get everything to maximum by the end. But I did have a clear favorite. It was anything that involved punching things, and and the ninja class gives you an ability that is an Azuna drop from the Ninja Gaiden games, which is you launch an enemy into the air, you grab it, and then you do a spinning pile driver back into the ground. And I always love that attack. It's always so good.
You pointed out that was in my favorite fight in Naruto so far too.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
The Azuna drop is a really popular move, and for good reason. Looks sick.
Yeah, it looks really good.
I also
that's cool.
Something that's also really cool is that those sort of things aren't tied to the jobs themselves; they're tied to the weapons. So that unlocks it for hand-to-hand combos. So any job that lets you do hand-to-hand combos, you can put that ability onto them. So you don't have to stick to ninja for it. It's just in the ninja tree to unlock.
So it works kind of like the Final Fantasy 12 level up system. Then you can kind of go to any job that you want, and just choose abilities out of that and use them. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a good way to do it, honestly.
Yeah, it's a really fun way to handle it, and like just tying things to the weapons frees it up a lot more than sticking them to the jobs. Excuse me, sorry.
Sorry, you go, Seth.
Before I touch on the story, there is one negative I want to bring up, and that's I wish there was like some sort of a glamour or transmog system in the game, because Neo 2 did have this where so we mentioned last week that all the loot in this gear is like pretty randomized, and you get a lot of different things, but it would be nice to have like a refashion system or a transmog system where you just take the look of something that's in your inventory and it doesn't affect your stats. Just have that appearance over it.
Because you want to play Final Fantasy instead of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. That's the end game of Final Fantasy 14. Let me repeat it here. But also there's a couple of pre-order DLC weapons that like after level 20 they just fall off and they just become useless. So having some sort of system where you could paste their look over another stronger weapon would be really appreciated. And Neo 2 apparently has this, and I can just hope that they add this in a future patch for this game later. But yeah, what were you going to bring up, Pat?
Well, it was sort of going to tie into your next point about the story anyway, in that because I've played very very select few Final Fantasies, but I'm curious. I don't know if either of us or any of us have played Final Fantasy 1, but whether the prequel is fulfilling story wise with where it fits into, I guess, the canon of Final Fantasy, or whether it's very much you play it but you don't really miss anything from the rest of the, I don't know what you want to call it, universe, Final Fantasy. You know where I'm going. I'd be curious
Final
what your thoughts
Fantasy
on that.
game is like self-contained for the most part.
So I haven't played Final Fantasy 1, but Trinity, my girlfriend, has, and she said you could play this without missing anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I'd assume that there's like some things in this that if you play Final Fantasy 1, you'll point at the screen and go, I remember that, that's really cool. But I think this more takes, like, if you had played Final Fantasy 1, it takes things that you would have known and you just kind of twist them in a way that'll make like you raise an eyebrow or like go, oh yeah, that's cool. But yeah, for the story itself, it's for the most part it's played like a very straight Final Fantasy game of it. Here's your crystals, go fix them, and then without spoiling anything, as you get to the last third of the game, a lot of major twists happen and all the characters start to shine even more, and it got into like a point where it was actually more emotional than I thought it would be. So it got like a lot better than I anticipated this game's story would go, and I really enjoyed it.
That's cool.
Okay, I have a roundup question for you.
Yep.
You said I don't know if you said it on the podcast actually, but you said multiple times that it's going to be your game of the year over Elden Ring. Do you still think that, having completed it?
Yep,
Ooh,
I stand
good
by
question.
that. I stand by that 100% because I enjoy the combat in this a lot, and I appreciate good feeling combat a lot more than most people do. Like, 2019, my top games would have been Kingdom Hearts 3 and Devil May Cry 5, just because I enjoy their combat systems a lot. And I don't know what was considered Game of the Year that year, but those two were what stood out to me as my favorite games of those years, and I can see that happening with this. Like, Elden Ring will still be in the top for me because I am enjoying that game a lot, but this is number one right now, and I think the only thing that would beat it is if Final Fantasy 16 does release.
It's funny you say that, because 2019, the game of the year was Sekiro, which was another Souls game.
That's actually one I haven't played, and that's supposed to be the Souls game that does decent combat.
That was
funny
the
because
TRS
it's the
Souls
least
game.
liked one from that I've heard. Yeah.
The joke there is the S for
yes,
Sekiro.
Sekiro,
It was an alphabetical tier list, but it fooled a lot of people. It was very funny.
It fooled you guys.
I was the one that posted it, knowing the joke.
Yeah, true.
Fucking smacked Steven.
I think Steven,
Yeah.
Steven was the one that really fell for it.
Shit list. I hate it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That seems like a fairly good place to wrap up, unless you had any final thoughts or closing thoughts and review, Seth?
10 out of 10. It's a cultural reset and the first game to sell 1 trillion copies. You heard it here first.
God damn.
Such lies have never been told.
I don't even have a follow-up for that. That's perfect. All right, cool. I would like to take not too long, but mention that just sort of talk about my hands-on experience with Tiny Tina's. Reason why I don't want to take too long is because I don't think either of you are particularly huge Borderlands fans, and it's really easy to recommend this to other people that have played Borderlands, but I don't see this being the one that gets people into the Borderlands series / universe. if you haven't already
Borderlands
been.
Cinematic Universe, the BCU.
Yeah.
So you say that, but I did enjoy Borderlands 1 and 2 a lot when I played those. I just haven't kept up with Borderlands since.
I enjoyed
Yeah, and
Borderlands
that's
3.
fine because you dodged the bullet of the pre-sequel, and Borderlands 3 gameplay-wise was great, but I still
The story
laud
was
Borderlands.
dreadful.
Yeah, I still laud Borderlands 2 as the sort of the epitome of what Borderlands should and could and was. So if you like Borderlands and you think, I don't know if I like Tiny Tina, yeah, you probably will. If you like Borderlands, you probably will. I'm just gonna I'm gonna be totally straight with you because that is a combination of its biggest positives and negatives, which I think is kind of interesting because so firstly, where does this game take place? So I came at this from, I understood like what this game was supposed to be, I understood like what it was setting up and things, but
Unlike
I had a
Kirby.
Can I interrupt you for a second there, Patrick? So, is this game another Borderlands game? Is it a gun game, looter shooter?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So that's one of the first things that it's sort of weird because I went into it just knowing that it was going to be a Borderlands game and seeing everything that said it was going to be a Borderlands game, and so I was going to get it regardless. I'd already sort of locked it in as I like Borderlands, I'll like this, and I was right. But there were a lot of questions that I had that weren't answered until much later on in the game than I would have liked, and that's because it's a Borderlands game, but I still don't have the answer to the question of, is this canon in the Borderlands, like, is this Borderlands 4, right? Or technically Borderlands 5 if there's the pre-sequel. But I don't know the answer to that question because I see conflicting information in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. And that's weird. It's weird because Borderlands 3, Tiny Tina is like 18, and people, I think, generally didn't like her character nearly as much as Borderlands 2. Because when you're a funny bomb-toting a child, it's funny and
It's
everyone
funny when
laughs
the
at it.
gremlin. It's funny when the gremlin is a little child and not a full-grown adult.
Exactly.
Yeah, they just become Harley Quinn then.
But when it's an ADHD 18-year-old that talks about blowing things up, you think that's just too relatable, and you just don't like the character as much. Which is
Why was she
fair enough.
carrying around a book called the Communist Manifesto, or whatever it is, the Communist Cookbook? Anarchist Cookbook, that's the one.
Yeah. But so what's weird is that in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, it's Tiny Tina from Borderlands 2. It's not Tiny Tina from Borderlands 3. But some of the characters that they reintroduce from the Borderlands universe are either continuations of or based on characters that come from more Borderlands 3 side. So, and the weird underpinning of all of it is that they don't do pretty much any instantiation for the characters because they are returning characters. So, for example, Lorelei, who I really didn't like in Borderlands 3, makes an appearance once again as the first main character you meet in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which, alright, I guess. But they don't really give... They give her a, no joke, one-line introduction in terms of why she's in this game from Tiny Tina's perspective, but Tiny Tina is Tiny Tina from Borderlands 2, and Lorelei is strictly Borderlands 3, so they do a one-line introduction of this is what she was doing before the events of Borderlands 3. But it's so weak that if you didn't play any of the previous Borderlands games, you'd go, that's kind of weird. Like, why would you even... Like, this game relies on you already buying into Borderlands for it to be effective, and I think it's a very dangerous line to walk because it works really well with someone like me, but it will not work on people that haven't played Borderlands before.
So is this a co-op game? Is it a single-player game?
It's co-op. It, like all Borderlands games are co-op. This
Yeah, but is it like strictly co-op? Like, is it like Left 4 Dead co-op, or like what is this? Like, just can you play it single player? Is there a single player campaign?
Yeah. No, I'm playing it single player currently. Okay. But it's all Borderlands games
the usual Borderlands setup where it's like you can have up to 4 players, but
yes, exactly.
If you're playing it solo, you can.
So do you play as Tiny Tina, or do you just play events from her perspective?
So this entire thing is set up as sort of the continuation of so there was Borderlands 2 DLC called Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, which in hindsight probably was the best DLC for what it was of Borderlands 2.
So good they made it standalone.
Kind of, yeah. So this actually is canon to take place after the events of Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep because of lines of dialogue and events that happen in this game, which is, I guess, kind of funny, but again, it just sort of convolutes what the hell is the story in this game. And so in that, in both Assault on Dragon's Keep and Wonderlands, you play through a Dungeons and Dragons campaign told by Tiny Tina, the bomb-toting psychopath, in a completely departed world that just happens to take place in the Borderlands universe. You're fighting like zombies and skeletons and all the sort of Dungeons and Dragons tropes in the universe of Borderlands, where you've got like, 1,000,001 different gun combinations in the same gameplay loop, but there's no bearing on the Borderlands story from the perspective of what you are doing. And that's the same in this one. So you can play through Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which I hope to do probably by next week, and I don't think I will come out the other side of it with any more understanding of any plot points that are set up or continuing through Borderlands as the core Borderlands series game story.
It just sounds like it's a spin-off designed to be a spin-off from my perspective, from the outside perspective. But that actually sounds kind of cool. I'm actually kind of want to play it now.
And that's kind of it, right? Is that like that is what it is, but it's hard to say whether that makes it better or worse because that is literally what it is. So you have the typical Borderlands 1, 2, and 3 and pre-sequel loop would be you pick a character. The character is one of typically 4 different character archetypes that can spec into one of 3 different weapon trees. And your gameplay loop is run through a level, shoot guns, throw grenades, pick up various sort of scaling, legendary system loot, like Diablo and all the rest of them. And that the fun comes in from the very slanted humor of Borderlands writing alongside playing with friends in co-op. And it's the same core. It's the same gameplay loop here. They're not doing anything crazily different to reinvent the wheel, which is fine because there wasn't anything wrong with the gameplay loop in previous ones. What they have done differently in this one is that because it's a Dungeons and Dragons setting, they have, instead of grenades, you have a spell, and they've put a larger emphasis on your melee weapon, where it used to be just, like, there were some builds that you could get away with that were melee, whereas now you actually have a melee weapon. Like, the weapon that you equip to use for melee, you can now pick up and upgrade and find, like, the loot system of like, a gun or any other sort of thing, which I guess is a good change.
Do you still pick a class like you would in Borderlands? Are they like D&D style classes?
Yes, so there are 6 classes to pick from instead of 4, which you might think is a good upgrade, but there are no longer 3 different class trees. So I'm playing the class called Berserker, which is just it's just a pun on Berserker because he uses frost damage. Fine. There's only one there's only one tree that I can spec into. So all of my points will go into the same tree, which is different from previous Borderlands games where you'd pick one of 3 different trees. But what is cool about this one is that when you play through enough of the story, as I have, you unlock the ability to multi-class, where you then pick another one of the 6 as a second class to attach to yours, and then you get to use the perks from both.
So a very D&D style thing. That's cool.
Yeah. Which means it's probably going to save me time in the long run because I'll only need to level up 3 classes. One, like, I'm picking. So there's the 6 classes, and the loose archetypes are melee face punch man, strong like glass cannon ranged person, spellcaster, and then hybrids of those 3. And so I will likely be able to just level 3 classes instead of all 6, and then just multi-class the other 3, and it'll save me having to play through the game 6 times.
Is there like a healer/support person as one of those classes?
No. Or at least there likely is, but it's not on the class archetype. There'll be like a skill point that you can put into that you... Usually there's like a medic class of you shoot allies to heal them. I'm sure that's a thing in this game. It's just not the Berserker, so I don't know what class it is yet.
Yeah, okay. No, fair enough. It actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
Is it set in... When you said it was like D&D in a Borderlands world, is it the same world design as the previous Borderlands games, or is it like D&D sort of landscape?
So that is one of the coolest parts of what they've done differently with this one, where Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, which I will have to keep restating it because it gets confusing. Assault on Dragon's Keep as the Borderlands 2 DLC was designed as a fantasy setting. Its entire purpose was to be like, oh, you're going through a castle, you're going through a magical forest, that kind of thing. This is designed to still encapsulate those pieces, but the overworld, which is the first time they've done a proper overworld in a Borderlands game, is a D&D table. And why that's awesome is because there are things like you use bottle caps for bridges, and the river is just an orange soda can that someone had tipped over on the side of the table. And at one stage, your path is just blocked by a cheese curl that Tiny Tina has just dropped while eating, like, onto the table, and that's now an obstacle that you have to get around. It's set literally on a D&D table, which is awesome if, like, everything is a double-edged sword, right? Like, it's really cool that that is the setting for this, but it means that, as I say, you'll go through and, in my case, probably play this for 100 or so hours, and it will have zero impact on the Borderlands story and universe and things. So, in a way, it's kind of meaningless, but at the same time, what it is doing is super cool.
So I have a question on whether this for people that like dropped out of Borderlands because of how not really the story, but how the writing has gone. How's the writing in this compared to, say, Borderlands 2 or Borderlands 3? Like, in terms of jokes or quips or whatever are thrown in there?
Yeah, so this is much more Borderlands 2, and that I've really enjoyed. So the main selling point...
There wasn't a Twitch streamer in this one?
Yeah, exactly. the main selling point on this, in terms of from the writing side, is that it's written like Tiny Tina is narrating the game while it's playing. So there'll be times where it'll do a cutscene from the perspective of people on the table, and then at times it'll be a cutscene of, what the game is. And so almost all of the boss introductions are Tiny Tina finding a figurine and then putting the figurine in the game, and then you fighting that figurine, that kind of thing.
That's pretty neat.
But the main villain that you fight is Dragon Lord. I don't know if he's got a second title yet, because I've been doing a lot of side quests. I haven't actually advanced the story a huge amount. You fight some guy called Dragon Lord, who is a written to be Handsome Jack character, much more than a written to be the Twitch streamer character from Borderlands 3. And thank God. Like, that. So it's a 1-2 punch in that it's written to be something like Handsome Jack, but it's voiced by Will Arnett.
Who's Will Arnett?
The guy, like, BoJack Horseman.
Okay.
Slash Job from Arrested Development.
Yeah, okay, no, that would be really good, actually.
At least he knows who he is after hearing the characters.
Yeah, I don't really know actors' names, but that's great.
Yeah,
I love both of those characters.
So it's so easy to just get into the swing of things and have him talk to you privately like Handsome Jack did, and then just start roasting you, and it just sounds like Job from Arrested... Oh, not Job. Job, because Job's the other one. The other one from Arrested Development.
The one other character? What do you mean? Job's the magician, dude. You're talking about the weird son?
Is Job the magician?
Job's the magician.
Okay, then it is Job from Arrested Development.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And so it just sounds like Job, just kind of being like arrogant and like sort of dancing around you and that kind of thing. It's great. And so you have Tiny Tina is the dungeon master for the game, but you are also joined by two other companions, Valentine and I think Fret 2000, like a robot, who are voiced by Andy Samberg and Wanda Sykes, respectively. So
what was the second name that you said? Sorry,
Wanda Sykes.
Okay, I don't know who that is either.
I know her as the skunk from Over the Hedge.
Is that her really most known role? Because I have
not,
no idea.
It's most known to me. It's like the really sassy voice, like perfect for this. And then Andy Samberg, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Lonely Island, SNL.
Everyone knows Andy Samberg.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just himself basically in this, which is cool. So that they've smashed the voice acting on that side of it. It's great, and so many of the So I'll just finish this point in that so much of the voice acting is kind of like, it's like the gruff role-playing fantasy kind of voice that you expect of I don't know, like you talk to a goblin and it's got like someone trying really hard to do a goblin voice and it just suits. But what were you going to say, Seth?
Oh no, I was just going to say that I feel like Borderlands has always done really well on the voice acting side of things. Like they usually get pretty great voice actors coming in for it.
Yeah.
What were the two villains from? I think it's number 3, like the bomb dudes. Number 2 rather. So I think they were the Boom and Boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
They like that voice acting really stands out to me when you say Borderlands voice acting because it's perfect. I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine a better voice for those characters. So yeah, they've always done a pretty good job.
There are so many good, like, this is sort of peak Borderlands 2 writing moments in this game. Like, I did a side quest recently, which I'm not going to spoil, but let's just say it sets up an entire Star Wars reference, and it's fantastic.
Where
it's
does it
genuinely
reference one
very
of the
funny.
Star Wars movies?
What?
Where does it reference like the original trilogy,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
prequels or the original
It's
trilogy?
the-
All right, I'm in.
Yeah, I won't go into it, but it's great. And the last major story beat that I've done involves doing something that makes total sense on a D&D board, but is otherwise physically impossible, and the game just rolls with it, and I am all about it. It's great. I'm really I sort of yeah. I'm coming at this from the I love all Borderlands games anyway. Like, even though I really don't like the main story of Borderlands 3, I still played that, several hundred hours. So I'm not turned off by a bad story, but this I actually don't know about the story overall, but the writing in the game, like, generally is very strong.
Okay, does it have still that very cell shaded, that very typical Borderlands art style?
It does, but weirdly, I'm not sure how to put this into words. It seems like it's turned down from Borderlands 3,
Okay,
if that makes any sense. Like,
as in like just less jagged lines. Like I don't really know how to put it.
I think it is a less like I think of Lilith in Borderlands 2 versus Borderlands 3, and Lilith in Borderlands 3 is that, like, literally everything has a border, and it's very
okay. That's
I
why
don't
it's called Borderlands.
Would you say it was
Yeah,
a
but,
bit
like,
too distracting in 3?
I don't know. It was just it's so for me, it's like the Sly trilogy had a particular art style, and this is a really, really weird analogy, but I hope
No,
it
I get
lands.
it, because Sly was like the PS2 equivalent of like what the Borderlands games were doing in their art style, I'd say.
Yes, and then when Sly 4 came out, however many years later, they tried to update the style for, I guess, current gen, and it looked good graphically, but it didn't look like Sly, if that makes any sense. And Borderlands 3 was kind of similar, where, because it had been so long since Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, all, like, 1, 2, and pre-sequel, well, maybe more 2 and pre-sequel, had a particular look, and then 3 departed from that look. Just in however way, I honestly don't know how to put it into words. It just, you could show me a screenshot and I just know it's Borderlands 3 and not 2 or the pre-sequel. I don't know why. But this
Okay.
feels closer to Borderlands 2. So yes, it is still cell shaded, but less so, I think.
Okay.
Are
the
other couple of quick points. They have reduced the legendary drop rates from 3, which I think is a good change. Kind of weird to say that that's a good change, but I've played this game a bunch and I've got 3 legendaries, whereas I think I was already drowning in legendaries in Borderlands 3, so that was a nice change. I've had generally good performance playing it on PC on circa 2016-ish hardware. Although I hit one area that absolutely crippled my frame rate. I think it would have been fixed if I restarted, but I continued playing. And yeah, I sort of made my own mess a little bit with that one, but otherwise runs really smoothly. I have hit a couple of UI glitches, and I've got a weird one where my character will slowly walk forward sometimes, but I don't think it's the controller. I think it's just a dead zone on the input, or something. Not like in a game-breaking way, but it's just sort of annoying where I'm set, on the edge of a cliff, and I'll start wandering forwards and get a bit close.
Just looking at it, because I actually hadn't looked into this at all. Yeah, definitely very Borderlands. Is there so all the monsters and everything like these? There's like skeletons and like D&D style fantasy
Yeah.
monsters. Are they done up in the Borderlands like post-apocalyptic, almost cyberpunk style, or are they just generic? This is a skeleton, this is a dragon, whatever.
Much more the fantasy side. This is a skeleton, this is a dragon. That was one of the not complaints, but it was weird going into this game. So I've been trying at all stages to kind of keep this in context with where it sits with 2 and where it sits with 3. It's I would say that it takes much. It would take slightly longer than in Borderlands. Ooh, I don't remember which one's faster now. It took me longer than I thought to get to the hub world. I'll say that. It took me longer than I thought to get to the hub world. And while getting to the hub world, because I consider getting to the hub world to be the start of the game, because that's sort of what it was in 2 and 3, or like the end of the tutorial / like you're now on your own, you can choose what you do next sort of thing. Like the releasing of the hand-holding. It took me longer than I thought to get there, and while getting there, I had almost exclusively fought skeletons, and skeletons are great. They have a whole bunch of really funny lines that they say when you kill them, but that's it for the first little bit. But almost every complaint that I've had of, it's annoying that they do it this way, does fix itself eventually when they introduce more. It just sort of takes a bit longer to get going than in other games.
Okay. I
know
that they've got
already talked for longer than I wanted to, so maybe we'll wind this up and I'll give the rest of my opinion on it next week. But yeah, what was your point?
I had just 2 questions. So I know that. So the one thing I know about this game is that it has a Japanese band in it that do chocolate. What are they called? Give me chocolate. They're called Baby Metal.
I know the song. I don't
Baby
know
Metal.
Sure.
Is the music like just does it suit like other Borderlands games? Like, is it really just over the top? Like, is it licensed soundtracks? Like, does it fit the game in general, being a fantasy kind of vibe?
Definitely not licensed. And thank you for bringing that up. I think this is actually one of its biggest downfalls. I think, and I hope I'm right about this, that my issues with the sound are because so many people have been playing this that my game has been, until maybe a few hours ago today, constantly trying to connecting to shift, and then stopping connecting to shift. And what I think that's doing is fucking with the background music and levels, because the music has been very almost Arceus levels of non-existent. But
that's awkward.
But when it is there, it's good. Like it's pretty good. It's a little bit overused, mainly because the places that I know of it are in the hub world and in the areas around the hub world where it's just a similar theme. So I've gotten a bit used to that one. But what I'm hoping is that once the networking stuff has been sorted, the music that they used just ambiently in Assault on Dragon's Keep was so good. Like, I cannot describe how good the music was just as background level music, that I hope that it's something that I can just hear coming through again in Wonderlands. But I'm not sure about it, and I've had issues with it. So, yeah, watch the space on that one. But no licensed soundtrack and nothing over the top yet that I've heard.
Okay, so Baby Metal might have just been for the trailer. The other question I had for you, just before you wrap this up, is could you play this one without playing the original DLC?
Yes. Yeah.
You can? So it's a standalone story. It's not like it's a direct sequel, but you can play this fine?
Yeah, it's there are pieces that so that's kind of the you need buy-in to Borderlands. There is nothing about what you play through in this that you require having played through Borderlands 2 or Assault on Dragon's Keep to enjoy more. But the main the main queen from Assault on Dragon's Keep was Butt Stallion. Butt Stallion was a joke introduced in Borderlands 2 by Handsome Jack, where he was so wealthy that he had a pony made of diamonds, and he would call it Butt Stallion.
Actually, I remember that joke.
Yeah, and so Tiny Tina took that and said that was now the queen of Assault on Dragon's Keep. Butt Stallion is back in Wonderlands. That's basically the only holdover that I've found that you would sort of need to know. Otherwise, you'd look at that and go, "What the fuck is this?" But that's the only continuation.
So obviously, then as well, just is this? So you said there's hub worlds. Then you have individual levels then that you go in and out of for the hub world.
Fucking giant. I think it might be better that we wrap this up a bit here, because we've been spending longer than I wanted to on this. But there is an overworld. The overworld is done in a completely different style, and you run around on a D&D board, and I love it. It's one of the biggest changes that they've made to other Borderlands games, and they fucking nailed it for this one. But the standard Borderlands experience of you load into a level, and there's a whole bunch of shit to do. Even if you've got, even if a main quest goes through a level, a lot of the levels that I've played through are so big that many of them will have side quests on entirely distinct pieces of that one level, and it's almost overwhelming. I say almost cool. In that the one change that I wish they made in this one is just let me sell shit on the ground, because I've had to reload and fast travel just to get to a shop to sell all the shit that I don't want. And the shops are so sparingly placed in these massive levels that I have to backtrack a lot because I'm stingy and I want to sell every gun that I'm not using.
Yeah, fair. Can you still just discard them and just leave them?
Oh yeah, you can discard them, but it just, I don't know, it's
feels wasteful.
My inner hoarder doesn't like that waste. But if they like, the levels would be absolutely fine in scale. They feel surmountable. They're just big. But just where the shop placement is and how often you need to backtrack to sell shit. Oh, it's so annoying. Just let me sell stuff, please.
Okay. So with all that in mind, rating out of 10?
9.5. Like,
oh wow.
This,
okay, that's high.
This has sucked me in more than Elden Ring did. Not that this is a better game than Elden Ring, but the gameplay loop, which I think I said in my thing for Elden Ring, the gameplay loop of this is much closer to what I enjoy 9 times out of 10 than a game like Elden Ring.
Yeah, so you're in the same boat as I am when it comes to like the game we're talking about this week compared to Elden Ring.
Yeah.
I mean,
Elden Ring, much better game, but this is a much more Patrick game.
Yeah,
and fair enough.
That's where I am with Stranger of Paradise as well. But Patrick, are you might have given it a 9 out of 10, but are you enjoying it?
What? You mean like the shitty UX, the people that are shitty at the UX of Elden Ring and stuff?
Yeah.
I am very, like, I have laughed out loud more times playing this game than Borderlands 3 and probably pre-sequel combined, and I haven't finished this one yet. Like, out loud laughing, like, holy fuck, that was so funny, I had to actually laugh out loud at it. I am enjoying this.
I'm glad there's good jokes in this one.
To put your score into perspective, how long have you spent playing it so far?
I hate Epic Games, and it doesn't tell me how long I've spent on things, but...
Well, just guess.
14 hours?
Oh, okay, so
it
substantial
just came
amounts.
out yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I was thinking maybe a couple of hours, but that's actually quite a bit.
it would have been at least 12, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's out all day today to play it.
Yeah, true.
Thanks for outing me like that, Saif. Yeah. Pretty much.
Hey, if I'm going to out you like that, I played Stranger of Paradise for 17 hours on stream the last weekend.
But yeah, I am so enjoying this, and I know that currently I'm the only one playing it, but I know that one of our mutual friends is playing it now, and I expect, as other people realize that it's not just a one-shot standalone DLC thing, that other people will be on board as well.
I'd buy it if it wasn't $90 and on Epic.
I might be playing it a little down the line as well myself.
Yeah, if I can get it for cheaper, I'll play it. But $90 is a lot.
Major win for I guess Gearbox. It was launched cross-platform.
Nice.
Cross-platform multiplayer.
Nice.
which was sick, because Sony's been typically real shitty with that kind of stuff, I think.
Is it on everything? Is it on Xbox?
Yeah. Xbox, PS4.
Maybe I'll buy it on Xbox.
I don't know which. PS5 definitely. Maybe PS4. I'm not sure. But PC, Xbox, and some Sony console.
And obviously Switch.
Yeah. And mobile phone. There's an exclusivity. Yeah. There's an exclusivity deal with Epic, because of course there is, but it'll come to Steam soon.
Watch there be no crossplay between Epic and Steam version.
That's the only one I'm a little nervous of, but because everything's done via Shift account, that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I remember there was a whole hubbub about Borderlands 3 not having like a cross save between them.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck. But yeah, overall I'd say Borderlands 2 is still my favorite, far and away, but this is big Borderlands 2 vibes, and I am absolutely here for it. And with that, I'm actually just going to physically cut off the conversation, because that was double the length of time that I wanted to spend on it. But good questions, Josh. Genuinely good discussion. It was just much longer than I was anticipating. However, with that does bring us to the end of Round the Lounge for this week, and we get to move on to part 2 for this week, which is, of course, the news. Now, starting off this week, we have Babylon's Fall falling even further from God.
Even further beyond.
You see, that would give it more positive spin.
Yeah, that's true.
Saif, you've probably enjoyed dunking on Babylon's Fall more than the rest of us. You want to take us through this one?
Yeah, let's continue to laugh at this game. So Babylon's Fall is doing a version update, and they've announced when they're going to do the collaboration event with Nier Automata. But that's not what you're here for. You're here for why are we laughing at it, and that's because for the tweets that they put out for this announcement, in the biggest, boldest letters underneath Babylon's Fall, it says, "Is the continuing service in danger?" ? No, there's no plans to reduce the scale of development. But just that highlight of "is this game in danger" says all you need to know about the game right now.
Like, what, 2 or 3 weeks after it's released?
Yes. And to add salt to the wound, I was actually looking at the update notes, and it's a lot of stuff of like, here's the things we're fixing and stuff. But the thing that caught my eye was that with the collaboration event, you get a 2B costume, a 9S costume, and a coffin case that looks like a meal. But those are all paid items, like real money paid, which is why are you doing this? Why are you making people hate this even more?
The coffin is symbolic for Babylon's Fall failing.
It's almost like Babylon is falling into the coffin.
But yes, Babylon's Fall, I expect to hear this game getting cancelled in the near future, even though they said it's not in danger.
A moment of silence.
I really like... So there's actually a tweet directly underneath it with they've got rid of everything else, and they've just got, "Is the continuing service in danger?" and then "yes" in all giant letters, and that's it. That's the entire thing that they've edited.
There was also someone posting the Steam charts for March 19th, which was 169 players, 324 in the 24-hour peak.
Which is so low. That's not 100. That's like literally 169 people.
Does anyone want the Steam charts for today, which is dating this the 26th of March?
Sure.
I mean, sure, but I gotta know. I gotta know, because I played a little bit of All-Star Brawl. I gotta see if I can add to that Steam chart number for people that have played All-Star Brawl recently.
Do you really want to pay $120 or whatever they want for it? No, thank you.
Okay, so for the Babylon's Fall bit, 4 minutes ago it was at 203 people playing it. In the past 24 hours, it was 333.
Chua.
And all-time peak is still 1,166.
Well, they're pulling numbers.
Whoever said...
I want to point out as well that someone said that this game is worse than Balan's Wonderworld, which is an amazing statement.
That.
So do I. I haven't seen gameplay of this game because I just have zero interest in it, but I've seen reviews and gameplay of Balan's Wonderworld, and that is fucking horrible. Yeah. So for people to be comparing it to that is such an insult. Which is also a Square Enix game, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Oh boy, they're not doing well.
Seeing the, I guess, you know, with pulling numbers like those, the adage, any publicity is good publicity, I think is technically true in this case. But I just looked up Nick All-Star Brawl. Guess how many people were playing it an hour ago?
24.
I'm close. 21.
Oh. 21. God, it's lower than 24.
I was going to guess around 100.
Which is hilarious because it was on Humble Bundle and everything. Like, they're basically giving this game away.
The 24-hour peak was 57.
I think you're one of those in the 24-hour peak.
Not in the 24. I played it earlier in the week, but I am.
I have played it for exactly 4 minutes, and that 4 minutes told me everything I needed to about the game, and I uninstalled it.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever cover, maybe if we're really desperate for content, I'll talk about how much I hated playing it, but actually, honestly, that's kind of unfair. I enjoyed bits of it, but overall, I will not return. Anyway, getting off topic. Babylon's Fall. Welcome to the Trash Fire, buddy. Great to have you here. Next up in the list.
Another Square Enix flop.
Yeah, more Square Enix. Square Enix with Chocobo GP. Seth, you were keen for Chocobo GP at one stage, right?
When it was initially announced, yeah, I was like, this could be fun, but then they started announcing their live service ways of handling this game, and I was like, instantly, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
And because of us specifically saying no, fuck off, they're deciding to change their live service adjustments to the game.
Yep, you are welcome, people that played Chocobo GP.
So all 0 of you.
Unfortunately, this is a Switch
there might be one.
exclusive, so we can't go get the Steam database numbers for these.
I can give you the numbers straight out of my head. 7 and 12.
Why is one of them negative?
Damn, the best Final Fantasy game next to the worst Final Fantasy game.
I can't believe you're calling that the best Final Fantasy game. We need to have a further discussion on this later.
So to give context, this is an article from Nintendo Life. Square Enix details current issues and future of new Switch racer Chocobo GP, where they detail a bunch of stuff in there. The sort of long and short, and the bit that I want to meme on the hardest, is they talk about how, yes, they are aware that there are some bugs affecting the competitiveness and the fun of the game, and they're working hard to fix it. But my word, some of the bugs that they talk about. I think my favorite one. The statement also addresses a number of issues that Square Enix is looking to fix as soon as possible. The ones it specifically points out are D. Issues where races do not end in the correct way, such as the results screen coming up before completing the set number of laps, etc. That is the one job of a racing game.
Which is hilarious. It's like the only thing. Yeah. I was laughing before this to Patrick, saying that it'd be hilarious, like watching the results pop up and you stop driving, and then all of a sudden you go from first to last because everyone keeps overtaking you and the screen keeps like live updating.
Or alternatively, the dude who's in last is now in first because according to the servers, he was only doing a 2-lap race and everyone else was doing 3.
It's such a stupid bug. How does that make it through?
It's incredible. I just it's like they, like Patrick said, their one job. The only thing they had to get right was this, and they completely fucked it.
The big thing for me is that they're moving characters off the paid battle pass. So we mentioned this before, but I think we did. But in season
we did.
In the first season of the game, they had Squall was going to be in the guild shop, which is what you do for in-game currency, and Cloud was going to be on the Battle Pass, but you had to get the Battle Pass by using the in-game paid currency. They've moved Cloud over to the free version, so you don't have to actually pay any money for him anymore. And anything that's going to be on that paid Battle Pass is just going to be cosmetic items now instead of characters. And going forward,
the way it should have been.
Yeah, and going forward, they're going to keep that system in place.
For a game that you pay full price for, that's just terrible. So I'm glad that they did that. I also want to point out just quickly, because I just read the rest of these bugs. The C one was a bug where the race start timing is not in sync. So not only do you not finish at the right time, but you also don't start at the same time.
Yeah, some people were playing as the final boss of Crash Team Racing, where you go on the second buzzer.
That's excellent. Truly,
well, I mean, if I play it, I get to play it 2 hours ahead of everyone else. Anyway, next up on so good job for, I guess, delivering comms on fixing what sound like really stupid bugs with your game. Hope it goes well. Next up on the list, though, we have it's a good meme. I honestly don't get the context for this. It's titled "Bloodborne Kart is Real," and it looks like a fan-made trailer by Fan Software, but someone will need to explain to me what the hell this is.
Okay, so Bloodborne Kart has been a general, like, Bloodborne meme for a long time, but Botstar, I'll spell it out so people can go follow her, but it's B0TSTER. She made the PS1 remake of Bloodborne and released it a month or 2 ago. And
we talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. But last year she did a April Fool's video that was like, I'm cancelling the Bloodborne remake. I'm going to make a PS1 Bloodborne card instead. And she's dug up the code from that April Fool's video, and she is now actually making Bloodborne kart for real.
Oh shit.
Which is incredible. Custom soundtrack and everything.
Yeah, custom soundtrack, custom announcer from it's all community driven stuff, and it looks pretty good already from like the small bits she's shown off. So I'm very excited for this. It'll be great.
Sweet. Next up on the list, an article from Gematsu, where most of our articles are, where we have announcement of a wrestling RPG, which
looks incredible.
At first I thought was just a sick meme, but I could kind of get on board with this actually. It's called WrestleQuest. It's been announced for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. we don't have a release date yet, but I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
No, I popped it in the chat. I think it looks awesome. It's just a really cool concept. Like it's a top-down 2D like turn-based wrestling game. Like what's not to love? That all of those words put together sound so good.
It's not exactly, but it's kind of like visually in the vein of the Mother games, in like how it's laid out for the overworld.
It's like River City Girls and stuff like that.
Yeah, but in general, this actually does look really cool, and wrestling moves do lean themselves really well into like a turn-based RPG sort of combat system. So I'm excited to see how those go. The
Can
beating
I
enemies.
choice scarf an RKO?
I hope there's an RKO in there. I really do. The beating enemies in a pin count is also a fantastic addition. But the thing that really gets me is that they have all these old WWF legends in there. So they've got
like Randy.
Randy Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts, and I don't know. WWE has such a stranglehold on wrestlers' names and gimmicks and stuff. I'm surprised they've got these in there somehow. Like,
Yeah, I don't know how they've done it either. I was thinking that when I saw this. But oh man, it looks so good. It looks like so much fun.
It does. I'm pretty excited for this. It'd be worth checking out.
Yeah,
Sweet.
No, this looks awesome.
We look forward to one or both of you playing it and telling everyone else about it. Next up on the list, we have a Netflix trailer for Tekken. A sentence I did not think I would say in a news section of a podcast. But here we are.
Me specifically, I kind of expect this a little bit because Tekken has done little movies and anime stuff before, so this is just adding another one to the list.
This is 3D CG and it looks terrible.
I thought it looked decent.
I think it looks horrible. I don't like it. But I don't know. 3D animation in general looks bad in anime, and that's so I don't know. That's obviously subjective. I'm sure a lot of people like yourself will really like it, but I just don't think it looks good.
Some of the shots look like they're hand drawn, which is what is really nice to me. Like the art style and the cell shading they've done. Some of the shots do look pretty good. It's when the camera starts moving, you can tell that this is 3D. But no, I think when it comes to Netflix's attempts in 3D anime, this looks like one of the better ones as well.
Yeah, that's not saying much though. When you compare it to something like a Jin. Ugh.
From the trailer, it looks like this is following. Is it Jin? Training under Heihachi.
Yep. So this is going to be the story between Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. So at the beginning of Tekken 3, they talk about how Jin was living out in the wilderness with his mother, and then Ogre came along and killed her, and he went off to train with Heihachi. And this is following that storyline. Like
Where's
filling
Kuma?
in those gaps.
Where's
it's
Kuma
gonna
at
be,
though in the grand score of this?
Kuma is somewhere. He'll probably show up in a training fight with Jin because he is Heihachi's loyal bear.
Yeah, that's what I hope. Oh, random side point real quick. Anyone else see that video going around of I need to describe what was in the video to see if you guys have seen it. Someone swinging from a branch, getting punched in the abs by another man, while a bear is rocking the branch back and forth.
Yeah, I think I linked that in the
wild.
chat because I saw it captioned. This is just an SNK background.
What? How have I not seen this? That sounds amazing.
See, the thing is, you can go and look up that exact description, and there's only one video. Because it's so literal.
I mean, I don't think it'll pop up if I look it up, to be honest.
Anyway, fantastic video. It just reminds me of what I'm now hoping and expecting to be in the Tekken series. Heihachi training Jin on a branch with Kuma shaking the tree. Anyway, next
Donkey
up
will be happy.
Next up on the list, fighting game master Saif. You'll have to take this next one. We have some Guilty Gear news for everyone.
Do you just want me to take over for the whole fighting game block that we have here?
Might as well, yeah.
Okay, so Arc Revo happened, which is a Arc System Works tournament. This year it was just Guilty Gear Strive. But at these events, they always have new announcements of new games or characters or whatnot. To start off with, in Guilty Gear Strive, they're adding in Testament, and there's a lot of talk about Testament because it was mistranslated in the past, but people thought that Testament was a guy that was just very feminine looking. But no,
Nope.
Testament has always been a non-binary character or agender, and to hammer this home even more, they got a trans voice actor for the English version of it, for the English dub, which is a pretty cool thing that they've done.
Yeah, and Testament looks amazing.
Testament does look
Looks like
great,
such
and
a fun character
they
too.
gave them a new hat.
Yeah, it's got a new hat.
More important than any other thing mentioned so far.
Yeah, it kind of is, because with how much Guilty Gear is like, we love heavy metal and heavy rock. There's never been a character that has the Slash hat, and now
Yeah.
we've got a Slash hat. So Testament comes out March 28th if you have the season pass, and March 31st if you're just buying the individual DLC. Following up on that, they also announced that DNF Duel will be coming out June 28th, and they showed the Machinist, I think it is, class will be also added to the game. Not much shown for her though, it was just a quick teaser. But good to have a release date for that, and maybe we'll get more ramped up announcements coming soon now that we know how far off it is.
Might as well just handle the next couple.
Yeah.
Continuing in the fighting game theme.
Next up is Street Fighter. This going in like order of when these were announced. Street Fighter 5
sure.
is getting a March update that both makes the game look better and worse at the same time because of the filters they've got on. These filters are only for the
filters
offline.
looks so bad.
The filters are only for the offline mode as well, so you're never going to see them ever. Because most people play this online. One of the filters adds a cell shaded look to the game, which I don't know. I think it makes the game look a little better than what it normally does with that cell shaded filter on.
Yeah, it looks like Dragon Quest.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
the first filter they showed off made them look like they were made out of clay. It's really
no.
strange.
No, that's just how the game normally looks when they look like they're made out of clay.
Oh god, is it really?
Yeah.
I haven't played Street Fighter 5, but that looks awful. Okay, I prefer the cell shaded one.
Yeah, no, Street Fighter 5 is a horrible looking game.
Yeah, fair enough.
But the second filter they showed off was this really horrible pixel filter. I don't know what they're doing with this, because I feel like they're going for a CRT look, but it just looks all sorts of wrong. Besides that, they're doing a balance update. I think this is the last major balance update to the game that's going to be coming out, since Street Fighter 6 is on the way. And most importantly, they added new colors to the tracksuit outfits for everyone. Next up, and the last of the fighting game block, is that there was a fighting game roundtable that happened earlier in the week, and not a lot happened in there. A lot of what we just talked about was reiterated at that event. But SNK decided to say, hey, King of Fighters 15 is going to get a free DLC character with Rugal, who is a very popular boss character from the middle era of the SNK games. And they also said that they're going to do a special mode where you have a souped up Omega Rugal boss fight, and by beating that boss fight, you get a special costume, a new stage, and a new song for the game.
Sweet. I don't really have anything to add to that, Josh.
No, me either.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And that's the fighting block done.
Hey, thank you for that, Saif. Next up on the list, we have the Dragon Quest creator accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, maybe someone who's played more than the Zero Dragon Quest I have would like to talk through this one.
Imagine having that bad of a taste in games, Patrick.
Some do call me the Josh of video game taste.
Sorry, go on.
This award basically is just like an award given to recognize a certain person's career and achievements in the industry itself. So, just Guji Hori absolutely deserves this, because Dragon Quest is such an incredible franchise that honestly, the landscape of JRPGs would not be anywhere near what it is if it wasn't for Dragon Quest.
Yeah, and they said as well that, he said that he is working on Dragon Quest 12, so hell yeah.
Yeah, I think he's worked on all of them. Like, I don't think he's ever left the series.
I don't think they've announced Dragon Quest 12 is why I bring it up.
No, they have. We've talked
Have
about
they?
it before.
I've missed that. Oh.
Yeah. They haven't shown much for it. They've just shown a logo for it. But yeah, Dragon Quest 12 is coming.
Oh, that's right. They showed that weird redone logo.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And they were talking about how they want to breathe some sort of new life into the franchise in how they do the combat, but they didn't specify what it is, and a lot of people are scared for it.
Yeah, no, me too. But okay, no, that's good. Anyway, yeah, well deserved.
I'll hold judgment on 12 until we see what it actually is.
Sweet. Next up on the list, we have a Gematsu article talking about how Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has been delayed until spring 2023.
Honestly, not
Next
surprising.
up on the list.
Yeah, this is very quick, but I'm not surprised. A lot of games get delayed at this point, so
Yeah.
it's not a surprising
Probably
thing.
for the best.
Yeah, probably for the best.
Yep. Literally nothing else we can add to that, but yep. Anyway. Next up.
I'll add in that I'm excited for that game, so like, give it that extra bit of time to bake, and that'll make me more excited.
Yes, but you're also excited to pay $80 for Dragon Ball: The Breakers, so we have to take that with a bit of salt.
I don't know, it seems like you delivered it with a lot of salt too, Josh.
Yeah. Well.
Next up on the list, we have Sony discussing their new sort of Game Pass-esque tier subscription thing, which we've heard a lot about. It might be releasing as early as next week, which means like might have been announced by the time people listen to this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Depends on how fast or slow Seth works, I guess.
Hopefully, it'll be up by
Balls-
US Monday,
balls
which
in your-
means there's a 2-day gap on where it early still counts.
Balls in your court there, buddy.
I don't know, that 30-minute Tiny Tina discussion might push it a little bit.
Oh, probably just strip that out into its own spoiler cast. We can have Josh edit that one. Anyway, within the article, we have. I don't think there's anything particularly new. We've heard rumors and things about there being 3 tiers, going from. Was these confirmed, or is this just what
These are
saying?
all just insider speculation.
Yeah, sweet.
And hubbub. So yeah, Jeff
Insider
Grubb.
speculation. Oh, sorry, you go. You go. Seems like you're on a roll.
Jeff Grubb is going on to say that he's heard that the service will cost as high as $16 per month. You'll have $10, which is what PlayStation Plus is currently. $13 will get you a little bit extra. Let me just skim the article to find where this is. The $13 will give you a catalog like Game Pass does at the moment, and $16 will give you access to PlayStation Classics and extended demos and game streaming, which is what PlayStation Now is. And apparently they're not considering doing their brand new exclusives day one for free like Game Pass does, because Sony has said before that they don't think that's viable for them to do. The games cost too much money, and doing that sort of service would heavily bankrupt them.
I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to playing the not quite Tomb Raider and not quite what was the other game? The Walking Dead ripoff? Last of Us? Okay, no, I'm done with my bad takes. I had to throw them in there.
I was just confused.
Yeah, so was I for a moment. I didn't know where you're going with it, and then it just clicks that when not quite Tomb Raider meant Uncharted, which is funny because Tomb Raider started copying Uncharted afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Tomb Raider better, but that's me.
But yeah, this is all just speculation at the moment, though. Well, I'm glad that if this does happen at the beginning of the week, it puts all the speculation to end, and we actually know for sure what this is.
Yep.
I'm confused by them not having day one releases, honestly. Like, yeah, it might not be super viable, but it's working for Microsoft, and people subscribe to that because of that, and they're having lots of people talk about and play their games because of that. So it just seems odd.
But I also don't think the Xbox games have been as impressive as the PlayStation ones as frequently.
I don't know. Infinite was pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, not as frequently, I guess. There's less of those titles now for Microsoft. I don't know. I think Sony tries to get their 120 US.
Obviously, all of this is just speculation, so we'll have to wait and see next week. Pre-recorded reaction to what was announced next week. Yo, that's crazy.
Man, I can't believe they're ripping us off like this.
Nah, neither.
I can't believe it comes with a Nintendo console.
I can't believe they're calling it pain gas. That's crazy.
I can't believe they're doing a Vita too. God, that'd be exciting. If they announced that with like as a streaming thing and they release another PSP, I would buy it.
That would be more impressive than the subscription tiers.
It would be.
Anyway, going on to the other piece of Sony news for this week, they decided to just pull a cheeky one on us and go and buy another studio. Not Bungie this time. Actually, we don't even know how much for this time. But Haven got picked up by Sony. I don't even know what Haven did or does.
No, me either.
They haven't done anything yet, so this is actually not too surprising either because this.
Yo!
Yeah.
They're running
Imagine
a
just making a
Kickstarter and got
company
picked up
and
by
then being
Sony.
Yeah. Literally just slap a name on a building and then ask Sony to be bought out.
You're close because this apparently Haven also started with Sony money as well. Like they
Even better.
they invested in this company as they were being built up, and now they're just like, okay, we'll just own you.
And they haven't done anything yet, but they employ 60 people.
Yeah, they haven't done anything yet, but this is the studio that's being helmed by Jade Raymond, who I'm pretty sure the last most significant thing her name has been attached to was the early Assassin's Creed games, like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. So
I don't know, man. I smell a tax write-off.
Yeah, she's been all over the place since. She's been at Ubisoft, she's been at Google, and she's been at PlayStation for a little bit. I don't know what specifically she's worked on since the Assassin's Creed 2 stuff, but she is still quite a big name in the industry, so...
If she was working at Google and they're an incredibly large gaming industry, I'm sure that her games that she worked on at Google were well known and well loved.
My favorite line is the first line of her statement, talking about the acquisition, saying, "1 year ago this month, we embarked on a journey to start Haven Studios with a small team and big ambitions." You're like, it took you a year?
It wasn't even a year. 1 year this month. It's like, it's not 1 year ago. It was 1 year this month.
No, it's just like, you found, hey, do you guys want to found a gaming studio real quick?
I reckon. We'll just ask Sony to buy us out.
It's not gonna, yeah, exactly. It's not going to do anything now, but in a year, trust me.
To be fair, it does take multiple years to get games made.
I'm not even thinking, I just mean the acquisition thing. Like, that's crazy that I guess if it was started with Sony money, it makes more sense. But it's just crazy that a otherwise third-party studio can start and then get acquired within a year, given that it takes multiple years to make games. But anyway, that's the reason why I'm not leading a gaming studio. I just find it funny.
Also, last note is that they were bought out because they're going to be helping with Sony live service stuff, which will tie into another news story.
I'm not even
later.
going to play their games. Oh god.
Do you want to tie that one in now? Because I don't know which one you're thinking of.
Gran Turismo 7 and how that's going as a live service game.
Yeah, okay, it was Gran Turismo 7. I thought it was going to be positive news, but no, okay, we'll do Gran Turismo 7 now then.
Live service and positive? Oh, well, question mark.
Couldn't be me, couldn't be Sony.
I hope you didn't want to play Gran Turismo 7 last weekend because the game was down for 30 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Turns out there was a... How did this work? They realized they were going to push a broken update, or they did push a broken update, so they decided to just keep it offline and then just do a secondary update to fix the first update, and decided to make this even better. They wouldn't tell anyone about it for the first 24 hours, and then say, oh yeah, no, we know about it, we're working on it.
It was going to mess up save data for
but
people.
what happened is they pushed the 1.07 update out, realized, oh no, this breaks retail copies of the game because they only tested it on dev versions. So they quickly took everything offline and started making a 1.08 update. But they actually communicated at the beginning that they were addressing some issues. It's just that they went silent for 30 hours and didn't say anything.
Yeah, and they were working on 1.08, and the reason it was down was because it's an always online game, so you couldn't even play it offline.
Yeah,
so
which is
people were just like,
big
I can't
takeaway
even
from
play this
is
game.
People couldn't even play single player events because of this always online stuff, and that is just incredibly stupid.
I don't know about you guys, but I much prefer my SimCity experience when it maintains a constant internet connection.
God, you'd think people would have learnt by now since SimCity, but no.
No.
You would. You'd
What's
really
surprising
hope so.
to me, right, and probably Patrick as well, is we both work in IT. If there was something going on and there was an outage for 24 hours, there would have had to have been like some kind of communication or plan for communication as part of like a change request or something. And they just did nothing. They just went radio silent about a brand new game for over 24 hours. Like, what?
Yeah,
That's
they
absolutely
communicated at the
shocking.
beginning, hey, we found a bug. The game's going offline until we can fix the bug. And they didn't even communicate that it was back.
Oh, didn't they?
No, I didn't. I was checking their Twitter and everything, and people were saying, "Oh yeah, I'm back in the game now and playing it." But I didn't see any announcement from their Twitter page that they were back up.
There's,
It was just
there's just a reply from Polyphony Digital on that one, just saying bet.
Yeah.
Bet, yeah. It's literally they've just gone. Oh, we've took too long to do an update. If we don't say anything, we have plausible deniability.
We probably do need to pick things along because we got other things to talk about. But other things that were, yeah. What else was in this update?
So there's this one thing I want to point out is that people keep talking about how they've reduced the credit rates that people were grinding. I just want to point out that it wasn't just reductions. It was like an average thing. So some events went up in price and some events went down in prices. So there was like some sort of balance adjustment to how these credits are being paid out. But the overall news is that some late game races had their credit payout reduced, which is going to increase the grinds that people take to get cars now. And they've also adjusted some bugs, I believe. I'm not too sure what was actually in the 1.07 update besides that the currency adjustment. But since then, the what's his name? Sorry, I've got this all up here, but it's all over the place. Kazunori Yamauchi. He came out and had like a small update for players, and he said that they're hearing people's complaints, and they're going to increase they're going to add in things in April that will increase the rewards for players doing world circuit stuff by approximately 100% on average. So basically doubling what's in the game at the moment. They're going to increase the rewards for clearing circuits with golds and bronze events, increasing rewards for online races, and they're going to be adding new events that have big payouts as well. So that should at least do something to reduce grind for people. And yeah, they didn't talk about anything about making an offline mode though, that's the big one that people want addressing. Like, the credits is all well and good, and making the grind less for people is a good move, but give people an offline mode, please. So if something like this happens again,
Yeah, like if I want to go play Gran Turismo 3, I can. If I want to play Gran Turismo 7, there's a good to fair chance that I can't. And one of those games was released 20 years ago.
So, Josh, question for you. The article that mentions this talks about how, partially as a result of the changes, mostly as a result of the outage, people flock to Metacritic to review bomb the score. The article lists that the review score is down to 3.2. Now,
yes,
gut feeling,
it's not accurate
is it
anymore.
higher or lower?
Oh,
now.
I know what it is. And it's lower.
Okay, well, you ruined the
It's a
surprise
lot
then.
lower.
Yeah, it's
It's
down to 1.7.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that you wouldn't
horrible.
have read that ahead.
No, I read it because at least I knew it was 1.7 yesterday or the day before because people kept review bombing it constantly, just because they were pissed off with the updates and the fact that it had been down for 30 hours. Basically, it went down to 3.2 when people were like, "Oh, we can't play the game," and then the game became playable again, and people were like, "Oh, you ruined the little bit of fun I had in this game." And now that they're playing it again, the score's lower to 1.7.
I believe this
say-
is the lowest rated Sony game and the most review bombed Sony game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the lowest Sony game, I think, of all time reviewed user score-wise on Metacritic. Or at least the PS5 one, definitely. I don't know if it's all Sony games, but that's really low. Especially compared to the critic score of 87.
Something funny was that I saw one of the user review scores was like, this website is useless because it has an 87 Metacritic. What does that even mean? While giving their review a 0.
I mean, you can look through all the critic reviews and they almost mean nothing. And then you'll see, like, there's one down the bottom that's rated 60 that's talking about if you can go for all the clunky menus, endless dialogue, and 100 visits to the cafe, then there's a racing game, like an excellent racing game somewhere to be found in Gran Turismo 7, which just says everything I need to know about the game, honestly. So It's
Well,
a
I mean,
shame.
everything you need to know about the game was summed up in my thoughts last week, which you went and listened to and thoroughly enjoyed. That's fine.
Well, I think you only played a couple of hours of it, right?
Yeah, I like genuinely I had, and I'd played that couple hours pre-patch when I already had access to some fun cards because it wasn't my account, wasn't my PS5, and wasn't my game. Real TLDR was fun game. I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
And seems like that's still true. One funny thing that happened between now and then, which is the last thing I'll say before we move on, when you go into the brand system and you're like, I want to buy a Lamborghini, I want to buy a Ferrari. One of the European brands that you can choose from is Lewis Hamilton, where he doesn't have a car to sell you. You can just go through the steps in his life,
Huh.
and I find it very weird that's
really
in an
strange.
auto dealer.
Yeah, that's really odd.
And someone
I,
and then someone at Polyphony Digital, someone's job was to go through and go, okay, Lewis Hamilton won this championship in this year, and just correlate it with some fucking random world event. Like, the stock exchange had one of the biggest hacks in history, and Lewis Hamilton won his 6th world championship. You're like, wait, what?
That's really strange.
How is that
What the heck?
connected?
They're saying that he caused the
No.
hack.
It's literally just like, what else happened at that time? Oh, this
Yeah,
random
no, that's
other
really
world
weird.
event. But yeah, it's in the auto show. I don't understand it. I don't know. Weird. I'd also review problem. I'm kidding, but it was just funny. But yeah, still enjoyed the racing. Wouldn't buy it.
It's funny because I look at it and go, oh, I really look forward to the next Forza Motorsport game.
Yeah. Yeah. Second to last, we have actually, I don't know. Group decision. We want to talk Hogwarts, or do we want to talk about Bobby Kotick?
I mean, they're both led by terrible people, so we can choose either one.
Seth, make the call. We're running at 38 minutes. We don't have long.
You know what? We always leave Activision for last, so let's get Hogwarts done and then end on Activision.
Oh boy.
Funny enough, I think Stephen was the only person that I know was going to play this as well, and he's not here to talk
I
about
know
it.
Trinity is excited for this, and she wants to pre-order it, but I am going to wait on it myself.
I
I'm
didn't even
not
see
willing to give money
the
to
announcement
J.K.
of this,
Rowling.
so either of you are going to have to give their summary because I know nothing about this game.
Or
Oh.
Yusef.
Oh
Don't all
god.
speak at once.
Oh god. No, because I've watched this twice, and so much of it just leaves my head. So
We could just say that there was some Hogwarts Legacy announcement, and that people can go and watch it if they're interested.
there was.
Honestly, the game
but-
looks really cool, but
Yeah, so they showed like 14 to 15 minutes of gameplay for the game, and they show a lot of like you exploring around Hogwarts. You make your own character, and you get to choose the house that you go in. They said that this takes place in the 1890s, and you're going to be a 5th year student, not a 1st year student. So you'll just go through like the life of a Hogwarts student during their 5th year. You'll get to go to Hogsmeade, the village that's near Hogwarts, and there's some sort of open world elements, like you'll get to ride your broom around this big expansive area, but they didn't show a whole lot for that. And they started showing plot details for the game, which is that outside of the Hogwarts life, there's going to be a goblin uprising that's happening in the world, and you'll probably be involved in stopping that uprising from going through, which is getting a lot of eyebrows raised by people online.
Mm-hmm. We don't need to talk about that, though, honestly.
Oh, okay. If we're not going to talk about it, that's fine. We'll move on. But don't know.
If
Is
you
there,
know
like, a 30
anything
second
about
summation?
J.K. Rowling, then you can start putting the pieces together of how goblins relate to her views.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, she's just not a good person.
And yeah,
unfortunately, the game looks really cool, but
yeah,
I'm definitely
gameplay wise, the
gonna play it.
game looks really cool. Like you got a lot of like using the spells around in like dual sort of scenarios, and you're constantly flashing things around and interacting with the environment and enemies in cool ways. There was one thing I did want to point out in that this looks like it'll have some sort of online elements, and there's a timer system in there, which is making me put my hands in my palms because they've got like, oh hey, you can grow these things and make potions with them and collect items to make these things come through. But once you start using them, it's like, okay, come back in 24 hours, real world time. And it's like, why is this in here?
How does one put one's hands in their palms? I think it was just a Freudian slip, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, the game looks interesting to say the least. I think it like visually is quite good for a Harry Potter game as well, because I used to play a lot of them.
I remember
It's
playing
not
the Chamber
Lego,
of
I
don't-
Secrets
I'm not
game
gonna
back on
touch it.
GameCube, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this one's coming to Switch, so I'm very curious on how this holds up
Yeah, that
on
was
the
the other thing.
Switch.
That after the State of Play, they announced that this is also getting a Switch port, and God, how's that going to work out?
Yeah, I don't know if it's coming day one to Switch. I think they said it is, but what? Why? I guess it's to just reach like a lot of the Harry Potter fans in gaming. I guess there's not a huge amount of crossover. There's a lot, but like it's not everyone. So they might just be trying to reach every market they can.
Yeah, most likely.
And lucky last on the, well, that was a poor choice of words. For the news this week, Bobby Kotick goes and does it again. Activision Blizzard, the gift that no one wants to keep on giving, but it does so anyway. A new, that's right, not the previous, a completely different sexual harassment and discrimination lawsuit has been filed against Activision Blizzard. This time pertaining to apparently 700 reported incidents occurring under Bobby Kotick's watch.
700 that was just to round that back.
Yep, not 700 half incidents, 700. God fucking damn it.
And it's by a current employee, not like
Yeah.
former employees either. So it's
Yeah.
coming directly from the inside this time.
I don't know that there's a huge amount we can add to this. It's all it's the same shit as the previous one. Frat boy culture, being a woman that works there is just a shit time. You know, was passed over for promotions because of trying to speak out about the toxic culture. The usual. I don't want to. It sounds awful to say the usual shit, but it kind of is the usual shit at this point.
I want to point out that one of the lines here is that they've alleged that complaints about excessive drinking and sexual advances made by her supervisors were explained away as leadership trying to be nice and trying to be friends with her.
Which is what? How did they come to that
Yeah,
conclusion? Right. She also claims to have not been told to air her concerns due to reputational damage it could have on the company. I think the reason that she's filed it now is like, well, it's not going to get any worse. But no, like, oh yeah, it's not.
But like, yeah, genuinely, like it's all part of the same shit. Like there's not a huge amount in this that we haven't seen before, which is terrible to say, but it's just kind of like, yeah, it's shit. We'll see if anything gets done about this one, because I mean, we know how the previous one ended, and Bobby Kotick not being able to get pulled up for historic shit, so that might be a similar one, even though it is a current employee. I don't know. It'll get bogged down in legalese. We'll keep an eye on it, just because.
One last thing I want to say is that following off what Josh said, they've also said that they applied for a executive assistant position in November 2021, and it was rejected because they spoke out against the company the following month. So the lawsuit digs even deeper. Like, speaking out against the company will ruin the company's reputation, but also doing that means you're not going to advance in the company itself.
Yeah, which is hardly surprising. Shit reality. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much longer talking about it. I really don't want to talk about it at all, but here we are. That brings us to the end of the news this week. Mixed bag. A lot of good, one bad. Audience question for this week. We have a question from Tom, big fan of the show. He asks, what do you believe was the most annoying game mechanic or change that became a genre staple? For example, chest-high walls and weapon degradation. Who wants to step up to bat this one first?
Always online.
Ooh, that's a good answer.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
Just look at how Gran Turismo 7 went last week.
I had a different answer, but that is a good one.
Yeah.
Mine was, so you said, like, became a genre staple. And this is one of the reasons I love Elden Ring, is that it doesn't do this. Every single open world game having the Ubisoft problem of, hey, go collect several hundreds of these, including you, Legends Arceus.
Have you documented every air molecule yet? You should go do that.
Yeah, you should go
climb
do it,
this tower to unlock portions of the map.
Yeah, like there's just, I absolutely hated that. That's probably my most hated thing in a game. If I load it up and it's got that, more often than not, I'm just going to close the game and I'm just going to refund it on Steam. I don't want to play it.
I think unneeded gacha mechanics, like, as a way to unlock rewards in the game. So it might not use real world money, but making you roll to unlock things instead of just going and unlocking the things you want when you want is an annoying workaround. that developers have done for some reason. It's happened in a few
Yeah.
racing games. It's happened in a few fighting games, and it's just, why is this here? You're just
Or the extension of that, which is the there's a good Reddit thread about like the number of different gacha mechanics and how you can sort of separate them into different groups. But the one that fucks with me is we're gonna give you 2 alternate prices for something that you can get in game. One of them is using in-game currency, one of them is using real game currency, but the real game currency is converted by its own ratio into an in-game currency. You can just only purchase it with real money. I fucking hate that mechanic. So instead of going into a shop and being like, oh, I can buy Cloud for $3, it's I can buy Cloud for 200 shiny orc shits, but each orc shit is like 30 cents. But if I spend $10 on shiny orc shits, I get 300 plus another 100 bonus. So I'd be losing money if I didn't. Like that entire system, that entire thing, I want gone. I fucking hate that.
If I pay $100 for all this currency, I get another $100 worth for free. It's basically for free if I'm not doing it.
It's like every fucking Mario Kart phone monetization of how would you like to buy for a limited time this week only 2 characters and a bunch of in-game currency for $30. Like that's like multiple meals.
Yeah.
You can get the whole Mario Kart DLC pack for cheaper than that.
Yeah.
48 brand new courses in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, cheaper than one Diddy Kong in Mario Kart Tour.
I'm okay with the surprise mechanics. I'm not saying that I'm a fan of them, but I understand why they are there, and I think in some cases they can serve a legitimate role. But the obfuscating of real values by putting like shiny tags in front of things like shards and gems and bullshit rather than just dollary-do values, get fucked.
I think I actually have a different answer now.
Personally, I had a problem with the Microsoft Store when they were using Xbox Live points to denote everything, because I mostly interact with PlayStation consoles, so I was always like, what the fuck is 800 Microsoft points worth?
Yeah, they got rid of that in the 360 though.
Yeah, after the 360, yeah. So I was glad when they got rid of it. But it Pat talking about that just reminded me of that, and I just needed to quickly air it out.
To be fair, like using a credit card online back then was like considered kind of sus, so I think it was just a way of like easing people into doing it, so they could go buy the dollars with their cards. They could have just done dollar values on the cards, but they didn't.
Yeah, I would have just preferred a dollar value on the card.
I think it also just helped. Like 800 Microsoft points is easier than saying $25 and then doing like as 800 Microsoft points is the same for everyone, and rather than having changed in a dollar value for every different country, because they have obviously different conversion rates and stuff. So I think that was part of it too. But yeah, no, I agree. It's stupid. I'm much in favor of having just a dollar value and then having a store for each region. I want to change my answer from the Ubisoft one. I think the push to live service games and having multiple season passes for every single game that release is probably my answer. That pisses me off beyond belief.
Yeah.
Not everything needs to be a live service game.
I get it
really
for
good
certain games, but others not so much. Like a fighting game, I understand as a live service, multiple season passes, because it just extends the life out so much more. So one fighting game lasts an entire generation instead of like making multiple full-priced games throughout the generation. But others not so much. Yeah,
like I think having 6 different season passes for like a truck simulator game or whatever is just shit. I think like every single game that I've tried to buy recently has tried to sell me to a bigger edition with a season pass, which more often than not I'm never going to use, but it feels like a waste if I don't buy it.
Yeah, deluxe editions that have things in them that feel like they should just be included in a base game.
Especially like games with day one DLC, like, hey, you can buy this, or you can buy this bigger edition that comes with DLC on day one. And I'm like, well, it's not DLC then, is it? Because I'm downloading it with the fucking base game.
Yeah, but you're downloading the game, so...
I haven't bought Tales of Arise yet because it's like, I want to get the deluxe edition for all the stuff that includes, but that's $150 full price.
Yeah, and so like half of that content probably doesn't exist yet.
My answer to the question as the question is 100% always online games. Fucking get out of here. But I will... This is answering a different question, but I do need to highlight this because I'm so glad it's gone. as a mechanic, it's not a genre staple, but just because it's in the same vein of what we're talking about, the fact that you no longer have to buy a game and an online pass for that game, good job. Whoever decided that needed to go, good job.
Yeah, online passes
what games
were
did that?
absolutely horrible. EA started that, and then Sony was doing it for a little bit.
I literally don't think I've ever bought a game that has required me to buy an online pass for it.
They haven't they existed solely in the last 2 years of the Xbox 360 and PS3.
Yeah.
I never played any of those.
Game that you wanted to buy pre-owned, you had to then, no matter what you paid for the pre-owned game, had to buy another $20 if you ever wanted to play it online.
No, I know what you're talking about. I didn't buy any of those games. Yeah. Do you have an example on what they were?
PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale had one.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that says enough, doesn't it?
A lot of that tier of games did. Like I remember.
I think Dead Space 3 did.
Probably. Like pretty much
think
anything
it
that
did.
EA touched in that golden era of shit.
I also don't think, like, for me, because you guys would have been playing consoles at that point, I was definitely playing PC by then. So I don't think that ever existed on PC.
Where you can't really buy pre-owned games, so it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably why it sort of skips over. But I know what you're talking about. That's a dumb system. I'm glad that's gone too.
I'm glad it was so short-lived. It shouldn't have been around at all.
Yeah.
Oh, one that's also dead, but was really annoying is like interaction between, like, a second screen experience. So you'd have the game and you could also do stuff on your mobile phone.
Oh, I'm glad that's dead. Yeah, I never did any of that. Especially Nintendo still trying to force it for voice chat. Get fucked. Just release it out.
I love the one for I think it was either Sly 2 or Sly 3 where it's like, do you have a microphone that you want to connect? If you have a microphone that you want to connect, you better make sure that you don't make any noise when you're around a guard or they'll notice you. And you're like, well, that just makes my experience worse.
Yeah.
Why would I ever do that? None of all of these are game mechanic things. None of these are genre staples, though. Is there any genre staple we can think of before we wrap this up?
Well, the Ubisoft open world fucking collectathon.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. Seth, you got an equivalent for that?
I'd probably have to go with the same thing, honestly. Like, every open world just becoming Ubisoft open world clones was really annoying, and Ubisoft just doing the exact same game, but a different coat of paint.
I have another genre staple that was also very annoying that has died off a lot. Every single action-adventure game requiring QTEs. Please, for the love of God.
I think that was just a general games thing, because it wasn't just action-adventure games. It happened across a lot of things.
I can tell you right now, I've never done a QTE in a turn-based game. Definitely a genre thing.
there was in some Mario RPGs.
Was there?
Yeah, the Mario and Luigi
really
games had them, and whatever.
Call Mario and Luigi game a turn-based game.
Mario and Luigi, yeah, they were turn-based.
Talking about like Super Mario Brothers, or is that an actual game thing that they did?
No, that was an actual game thing. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga and
I've never even heard of that.
And stuff.
What were they on? 64?
They were all handheld ones. GBA, DS.
Okay, I was poor. I had Pokemon once a year, and that was it.
Yes, Super Mario RPG also had the timed hits mechanic, which is basically a QTE.
Either way, I'm glad they're dead for the most part. They were fine in small amounts. Like Shadow of War, ending that game with a QTE was the biggest upset of my life.
Shadow of Mordor as well. So
Shadow of Mordor do it as well. God damn it.
So mine as a genre thing, I don't think it's my true answer, but it's the one thing that I can think of because I've hit it recently. Of kind of in line with the season pass thing. If a game is marketing itself as you need to log in or do something within this specific time window for this thing, and then gives you no other way of obtaining that thing, that's a staple now. That's definitely a staple now. I think I'm thinking of like Horizon 5, where it's like, oh, you happen to be away from your computer for a week. Goodbye. Not only the week's worth of stuff that you could have got, but that also cripples your ability to get the month's worth of stuff because it's all linked. And if you're lucky, it'll come back later on, but more often than not, it won't. Whereas, I don't know, keep loading it above everything. Deep Rock Galactic. Oh yeah, we have a season pass, but don't worry if you're not around to play it. We'll just add it to the regular loot pool later. Thank you. Thank you.
Time gating mechanics are stupid because they tie very heavily with the gacha-based mechanics, and both of them are horrible.
Yep. Yeah, that's the only way I can think of that specifically with sort of racing games, but I'm sure that's.
It's for so many things. Even Tiny Tina right now
across
has
genre.
That.
That's just because it most recently hit me in Forza Horizon.
Yeah, no, it's on pretty much every game I've played. Especially if you play anything that is a mobile game, that is like if it's not in that game, I would be surprised.
Yeah, but who the fuck plays mobile games?
There's a whole bunch of people that play still like the fake games and stuff like that. But again, they're all gacha games.
All the mums playing Candy Crush.
Like, do they have time games and stuff in Candy Crush? They probably do.
I'm not
Gotta
a
form
mum,
an
I wouldn't
addiction
know.
somehow.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Tom. If you or someone that you know has a question that you would like us to answer, let us know. We have a mailbag at fasttravellounge@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook at Fast Travel Lounge and Twitter at Fast Travel Lounge minus one of the L's. I think that's it for the socials. That does also bring us to the end of episode 17. If you've liked what you're hearing, feel free to give us a like, follow. I don't know what other platform-dependent ways you have of showing your support, but we appreciate it if you do. That does bring us to the end of episode 17, though. Any quick teasers for what people can expect next week? I know mine will be Tiny Tina Wonderlands continued. Anyone else?
I
I
have
might
no
play
clue.
Tiny Tina's Wonderland. The more you talked about like the D&D side of it, the more interested I got. So I might give that a go. I'll have to see. I'll wrap up a bit more Kirby, and I'll probably end up finishing Pokemon Black, or at least progressing.
For me, I have no clue at the moment. My mind's going all over the place. Like, I'll probably touch on some more Pokemon. I got Endgame of Stranger of Paradise to do that isn't tied to any trophy progression. But yeah, maybe I'll go back to Elden Ring and try to get through more of that as well.
Should finish it, yeah. I'm nearly finished New Game Plus now. I've got 120 hours in that now, I think.
Honestly, if I didn't play Stranger of Paradise, I probably would have finished it by now.
Such a good game.
Anyway, I've been Patrick. You've been listening to Fast Travel Lounge. I've been joined by Saif and Josh. Hopefully we have Steve back next week. But from us here, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.